Chapter 593. The moonlight sprinkled on the land inside and outside Black Pine Pass like frost. To the south of the city, war drums thundered and torches lit up the sky. Hundreds of thousands of Iha country's troops were in battle formation. Finally, after the successive failures of the Qinyu country's strategy of crossing the mountains and crossing the sea by deception, Ding Shi and Long Qianlin had no choice but to fight head-on with Feng Jixing, who guarded the three passes, under the urging of Qin Yi, the commander-in-chief of Iha country. Creak. The axle of the siege catapult rotated, producing an extremely unpleasant sound. This was an improved catapult. Its entire body was made of steel and its torque system was very sophisticated. It could be thrown up to a range of nearly 500 meters. It could be considered a secret weapon of the Iha country. Ding Shi's eyes were cold as he looked at the towering Black Pine Pass in the distance. He raised his hand and said, "Fire the torch stones immediately after entering the firing range and burn Black Pine Pass. Let's see how long Feng Jixing can hold out." Yes. The group of generals cupped their fists in unison. The next moment, flaming stones were placed into the trough of the catapult. Torch stones were a kind of flammable stone material wrapped in cotton and other materials. After being poured with black beech oil, they burned fiercely. Accompanied by a loud bang from the catapult, the torch stones soared into the sky and headed straight for Black Pine Pass. Bang, bang, bang. Most of the torch stones crashed onto the city wall, but many rolled into the fortress, burning the soldiers inside and causing them to scream in pain. "Put out the fire." Feng Jixing walked along the corridor with his hand on the hilt of his saber and said with a livid face, "Everyone hide well and don't get hit by the torch stones. Soldiers in the city carry water to extinguish the fire. Order those outside the city to quickly draw water from the nearest water source into the city." "Yes, Commander." At the edge of the fortress, Feng Jixing pressed his hand on the battlement and looked at the rumbling fire in the distance. He couldn't help but worry. The Iha nation had really begun to attack the fortress. Although the three passes were sturdy, they might not be able to hold out for long, especially after the Iha nation used this new type of catapult. There was already little water in the Qinling Mountains, so it was difficult to extinguish the fire. Moreover, the interior of the fortress was made of wood. Once it was set on fire, it would be difficult to save it. At this moment, Tang Lon walked up the stone steps with the help of a walking stick and coughed violently. "Your Highness, Seven Seas King." Feng Jixing hurriedly went forward and said, "You're not feeling well, why did you come up to the city yourself? Quickly go and rest, leave the matters here to me." Tang Shi also said, "Yes, Your Highness, just leave the matter here to us." "Do you all think I'm so old that I'm about to die?" Tang Lon smiled and narrowed her eyes at the hundreds of thousands of mighty soldiers in Lingnan. She couldn't help but lament, if the 100 Ridge Cavalry that guards the Sword Pavilion is the strongest army in Iha Nation, then Ding Shi and Long Qianlin's army should be the second strongest army in Iha Nation. "General Feng, are you confident that you can guard all three levels?" "No." Feng Jixing said, "For more than 3,000 years the north and south of the Qinling Mountains have always been loyal to the imperial capital, and there has never been any war on the Qinling Mountains. Although Ink Pine Pass is majestic, there are very few war supplies. The walls are peeling and have been in disrepair for a long time. In addition, Iha Nation has newly developed catapults. I'm afraid that if they continue to attack like this, Ink Pine Pass will collapse into ruins in less than 10 days. Tang Lon frowned. "In that case, defending for a long time isn't a solution. Does General Feng have an idea?" "Yes, but I need the help of the Seven Seas King." "What help?" Feng Jixing said seriously, "Your grandson Tang Lu is not dead. He's leading 300,000 soldiers to guard the Seven Seas Pass and hasn't advanced. He even threatened that unless there's a letter from you, Seven Seas King, they won't obey your orders. It's said that Princess She has already mobilized the demon army to guard against any mishaps. So Seven Seas King, please write a letter to me. I'll immediately send someone to summon Tang Lu and 300,000 elite soldiers. As long as we have these 300,000 elite soldiers, we can turn the tables and open the 3 levels to fight Long Qianlin and Ding Shi's armies." "There's such a thing?" Tang Lon smiled and said, "Perhaps the soldiers of Seven Seas City have been living in Seven Seas Province for a long time and can't stand the life in the south. I heard that many soldiers have fallen ill and need to recuperate. So, let's wait a little longer." When they've recovered their combat strength, I'll naturally order them to head to the front lines to fight against the demon race and Iha nation. Feng Jixing naturally knew what this old fox was thinking. He was waiting for the empire to be defeated, or for the Iha nation and the demon race to suffer heavy losses. In this way, the 300,000 elite soldiers of Seven Seas City could attack Lanyan City and become the new master of the empire. Unfortunately, Tang Xiaoxi had already led the demon army to surround and defend Lanyan City. Tang Lan's wishful thinking would ultimately fail. In that case, let's wait a little longer. A trace of coldness flashed across Feng Jixing's eyes as he said, "Not long ago, we received military intelligence from Songlin Valley. The Empire's army suffered a great defeat. The deputy governor of Cloud Province, Su Lin, committed suicide. The God Might Battalion and Iron Blade Army were also defeated and suffered heavy losses. I'm afraid the Empire's army in Songlin Valley won't be able to hold out for much longer." Tang Lan's face was grave and stern. "General Feng, don't worry. In 2 days, Seven Seas City will send out their army. And at the moment of the Empire's survival, I hope that Duke Lan will put the people of the world first." Feng Jixing looked at him deeply and said, "Once the Empire's army is destroyed, the demon race and Iha nation will take advantage of the situation and invade. I'm afraid that even the 300,000 elite soldiers of Seven Seas City won't be able to help. Your Highness, you're a businessman. I don't think you'll do any unprofitable business, right?" Tang Lan was silent. He coughed violently and said, "Men, help me down." Looking at Tang Lan's receding figure, Feng Jixing clenched his fists and gnashed his teeth in hatred. Su Yu's voice was very cold. She didn't care about Tang Shi, who was beside her, and said, "The Empire's survival is at stake, yet he's still hiding his strength and biding his time. He really doesn't know what's good for him. If he hadn't been so evasive, I'm afraid Iha nation wouldn't have attacked Lanyan City." Feng Jixing didn't say anything. Instead, Tang Shi smiled faintly and said, "When Duke Lan was evading, it seemed that Duke Yun of Twilight Rain City was also biding his time. Commander Su, you should have been by Duke Yun's side at that time. Don't you know what Duke Yun was thinking?" Su'er was so angry that her face turned pale. She bit her red lips and didn't argue with Tang Shi. However, Feng Jixing took a deep breath and said, "Forget it, let's wait for another 2 days. Let's see if you and the Longdan army camp can resist the demon race. If news of Yu's defeat comes from the direction of Songlin Valley, then I'll leave my commander's flag on Mo Song Pass. I'll lead 30,000 Imperial soldiers to reinforce Songlin Valley at full speed. No matter what, I can't let anything happen to Her Highness Yin." Su'er nodded and said, "Yes." Tang Shi cupped his fists and said, "General Feng, don't worry. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will definitely not let Long Qianlin and Ding Shi break through the 3 passes." Thousands of miles away, the sound of war drums rumbled on the main road. The 8 formation diagram formed by the 45,000 soldiers of the Longdan army camp was like a tough wedge that nailed the nearly 200,000 soldiers of the Thunderchong army camp to the east of the Unicorn Forest, making it impossible for them to advance. The sun was about to rise from the east, and the soldiers of the Longdan army camp had persevered for a whole night. Almost everyone was exhausted. Tiger Wing Formation, meet the enemy. Wei Chou raised his arm, his face full of smoke and dust, and said, "Fire black tortoises." Immediately, more than 100 staff members of the Beast Taming Department of the Divine Temple of Lanyan City stepped out of the battle formation. Their palms were enshrouded with spiritual power. Behind them, more than 100 huge fire black tortoises stepped out of the formation. These fire black tortoises curled up their bodies and protected themselves with flaming armor. Their bodies were filled with raging flames as they charged toward the armor demons. Boom, boom, boom. Balls of flames soared into the sky, and the screams of the demon tribe came one after another. The armor demons were afraid of fire. Their wings were flammable and even their bodies were flammable. Moreover, the flames that the fire black tortoises spat out were not ordinary wildfire, but a kind of mysterious fire that had been modified by spiritual power. Being burned by the mysterious fire, the armor demons had no way to survive. However, the number of fire black tortoises was limited, and the armor demons were very ferocious. They charged forward fearlessly, attacking the black tortoises with axes and spears. Bang, bang, bang. Although the shells of the black tortoises were hard, They were not invincible. Soon some black tortoises were injured. Roar. Break. Among the armor demons, Lei Chong, who was wearing golden armor, appeared again. The blood-red Grandmaster Devil Force surrounded his war hammer. With one strike, a fire-black tortoise died. Little Red. In the 8 formation diagram, a staff member of the Divine Temple screamed. After communicating with the beast, he could feel the pain and fear of the fire-black tortoise when it died. This feeling was no different from his own death. The Longdan army camp is going to be defeated. Jin Yifun's eyes shot out a ray of light. What should we do now? Lin Muyu said, retreat. Everyone retreat. The Longdan army camp will stay and hold up the rear. But, Qin Yin gritted her teeth and golden ice crystals revolved around her palm. I will stay. With my strength I can also help the Longdan army camp. Luo Exen, protect Grandpa and the Divine Marquis and retreat with the army. Yes. Luo Exen cupped her fists. Lin Muyu did not say anything else. If Qin Yin wanted to stay, then so be it. She might not be required to fight in the next battle anyway. At this time, the 8 formation diagram formed by the soldiers of the Longdan army camp was on the verge of collapse. After an entire night, the soldiers in the 8 formation diagram had suffered heavy casualties. At least half of the 45,000 soldiers had died. If they continued to fight, the entire army would be annihilated. Fortunately, the demons had also suffered heavy losses. Tonight, the 8 formation diagram had killed at least 30,000 armor demons. In addition to the 20,000 to 30,000 winged tribe people, the losses of the Longdan army camp were worth it. Wei Chou stood on the platform and looked at Lin Muyu, who was on the hill in the distance. Lin Muyu was also looking at him. She raised her arm and pointed towards the north. Immediately Wei Chou became excited. Beat the drums and withdraw the formation. Everyone get on your horses and enter the valley in the north. Lin Muyu also lifted her sword and mounted her horse. Qin Yan, protect His Highness. Just watch the battle from here. I will go down and add some fuel to the fire. Yes, big brother. Chapter 594. More than 20,000 soldiers of the Longdan battalion mounted their horses one after another, leaving a few hundred to bring up the rear, while the rest all rushed into the valley. On the hillside, Lin Muyu rode treading snow and rushed down like lightning. Her speed was extremely fast as she waved her long sword from a distance. Whoosh! Under the control of the sword-controlling technique, the star's sword rampaged and minced 3 armor demons in front of her into pieces. Go! As the commander, Lin Muyu personally covered the retreat of the soldiers. Facing the attack of dozens of armor demons, she waved her iron fist and dark force surged. She shouted and blasted out a chaotic lumen of all lives. With the current strength of Lin Muyu, the chaotic lumen of all lives was extremely powerful. A group of armor demons were easily peeled off their shells and died miserably. Lin Muyu. Lei Chong's roar came from afar. Lei Chong really hated this human commander. Lin Muyu made him taste the humiliation of failure. If he didn't kill Lin Muyu, Lei Chong would have no foothold as the commander of the demon clan. Chase them. We must kill them all. Lin Muyu's people are already an arrow at the end of its flight. Lei Chong roared. The high-level demon advisor grabbed Lei Chong's arm hurriedly and said, Marshal, don't be impulsive. Have you forgotten Marshal Qianfeng's words? Don't chase a cornered enemy. Lin Muyu is full of tricks. She won't withdraw the formation for no reason. You'd better wait for Marshal Qianfeng's order. Wait my ass. Lei Chong roared angrily. Qianfeng must be afraid that I'll steal the credit. Damn, I'm going to annihilate Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp this time. I'll take Lin Muyu's head back and show Qianfeng my ability. Everyone charge and annihilate the Longdan army camp. The eyes of those armored demons turned red as they lost their senses after being driven mad. Plus Lei Chong, the irrational commander-in-chief, all the armored demons instantly poured into the unknown valley and chased after Lin Muyu's remaining soldiers. Amidst the messy sounds of horse hooves, Lin Muyu spurred her warhorse to slowly retreat to the back of the formation. She would use the chaotic lumen of the common to take care of the armor demons that were charging at the front. The chaotic lumen of the common consumed less battle energy. Furthermore, with her twin martial souls absorbing the surrounding spiritual energy, she could use the chaotic lumen of the common every 5 minutes to ensure that her battle energy was abundant. Therefore Lin Muyu was not stingy with this area of effect martial skill. Outside the valley, the armor demon legion rushed over. Under the light of the morning sun, everything was black. Wei Chou couldn't help but snicker. I've fallen into their trap. Order everyone to leave quickly. Try to minimize casualties. Yes. I don't know whether Situ-Sin is ready or not. Don't worry, Your Excellency. Don't worry about General Senior. Good. Lei Chong's advisor Feng Xiuye was a 5-star demon sect expert and also one of Qianfeng's capable generals. Feng Xiuye was a distant relative of Demon Emperor Feng Yuan. Because of his high cultivation base and meticulous mind, he was put in an important position. Before leaving, Qianfeng had repeatedly warned him to stabilize Lei Chong, the reckless commander-in-chief. However, at this moment, it seemed that he couldn't stabilize Lei Chong at all. Looking at the surrounding terrain, Feng Xiuye kept observing. The valley was very spacious. It was almost 5 miles wide. It was almost impossible to attack with fire in such a long valley. It was impossible for humans to ambush them with arrow boxes and ballistas. Almost all the armor demons under Lei Chong's command were equipped with battle shields. Therefore, the lethality of the ballistas and arrow boxes was very limited. Even though the white diamond arrows could penetrate heavy armors, they were too precious for humans to afford. At this moment, Feng Xiuye began to be sure. War was originally a gamble. Perhaps Lei Chong's recklessness had won the gamble this time. This was a great opportunity to annihilate the Longdan army camp. The mighty armor demon legion poured into the valley. They didn't chase after Su Muyun and Luo Xian's remnant troops. Instead, they chose to chase after the Longdan army camp. It showed how much the demon clan hated the Longdan army camp. Kill them all. Don't let any of them go. Lei Chong laughed loudly. He smashed the soldiers of the Longdan army camp into pieces one by one with his warhammer. The blood splashed on his face and armor. He didn't wipe it off, which made him look even more ferocious. Damn it! Lin Muyu looked back at Lei Chong from afar and said, "This bastard has killed many humans. Today is the best opportunity to kill him. We can't let Lei Chong go back alive no matter what." Yes. Wei Chou smiled and said, "Don't worry, madam. Have we passed the minefield? We're almost there." Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at the mountains on both sides. She could vaguely see the sunlight reflected by the magic crystal cannons. She smiled and said, "It seems that Situ-Sin and Situ-Shui are ready." Yes. Wei Chou frowned and observed the terrain. He suddenly pointed forward and said, "Madam, the white grassland in front is the safe zone. We're going to turn around and fight the enemy." Okay. Lin Muyu suddenly pulled out her long sword and shouted, "Turn around and use the heavenly book." The group of people who brought up the rear were basically all military officers. One after another, they turned their horses around and raised the tool embryos in their hands. Dozens of tool embryos were raised at the same time. All of them were fire spirit books and earth spirit books. Swish, 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 swish. Heavenly flames descended from the sky, burning all the pursuing devils to death. At the same time, Situ-Sen's and Situ-Shui's troops who were lying in ambush on both sides of the mountain range also made their move. Whoosh. Situ-Sen lifted the straw covering his head and said in a low voice, "Fire the cannons." Dong 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 dong. The war drums rumbled. This was the signal for the Longdan army camp to counterattack. In an instant, the 100 magic crystal cannons on both sides of the mountain were fired. Tongues of fire spewed out from both sides of the mountain. Bang bang bang. Purple lightning fell from the sky and mushroom clouds soared into the sky. The explosions of the magic crystal cannons produced lightning, flames, and fierce impact. For a moment, the whole valley seemed to be blooming. The armor demons on both sides of the mountain were torn into pieces by the explosions of the magic crystal cannons. They were panicking like wild beasts that were being hunted. "It's over." Feng Xiuye's face was pale. He said, "We've been tricked. What kind of weapon is that? So powerful. Damn Lin Muyu. What should we do?" Lei Chong roared, "Fight them to the death." No. Feng Xiuye hurried to stop him. He said, "The range of their weapons is very short. It's less than 1,000 meters. Order everyone to gather at the center of the valley. We'll retreat slowly." Although Lei Chong was rash, he wouldn't force it even if he knew that he had been tricked. However, at this moment, the explosions of the magic crystal cannons on both sides of the valley caused lightning to wreak havoc on the ground. The mountain rocks were burned red. Suddenly the soil under the ground began to swell. With a bang, a purple mushroom cloud soared into the sky. Hundreds of armor demons were torn into pieces. They didn't even have the chance to scream. There were more underground. At this moment, Feng Shuya's heart was like dead ashes. He understood everything. This was a grave that Lin Muyu had prepared for the demons. The reason was simple. The explosion of the magic crystal cannons could produce lightning and high temperature. Qin Xiling had tested it repeatedly. Within 50 meters of the explosion of a magic crystal cannon, another magic crystal cannon could be detonated. Therefore, Lin Muyu had ordered Wei Chou to bury almost all the magic crystal cannons evenly in the valley. There must be a magic crystal cannon every 50 meters in the valley. Boom, 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 it was like purgatory. The explosions created a carpet effect of destruction. The invincible armor demons were so helpless in this disaster. They fled in panic and were then blown into pieces. On the hillside, Qin Yin, Qin Yan and the rest were also stunned. Everyone knew that Lin Muyu was researching a new weapon. However, no one had expected that the weapon he was researching would have such destructive power. The cannons on both sides of the valley were unceasing. The demons couldn't advance or retreat. If they advanced, there was the army led by Lin Muyu and Wei Chou with the white drill arrows. If they retreated, the valley had already been cut off by the 20,000 elite soldiers led by Fingxi and Su Jiantao. This time Lin Muyu had used the entire Longdan army camp. His appetite was just that big. He wanted to destroy the entire Lei Chong army with the strength of a human army. Lei Chong's recklessness had led to his own failure. Nearly 130,000 armor demons had followed him into the valley, but in less than half an hour they were all wiped out. Charred corpses of armor demons and high-level demons were everywhere. The smell of burnt flesh filled the air. In the sky, a group of winged tribe people saw the scene in the valley. They were all so scared that they shed tears. Apart from crying in fear, what else could they say? This was a weapon that they couldn't imagine. Kill. We must kill our way out. Lei Chong raised his warhammer and led dozens of armor demons towards the east of the mountain range. That was where the demons came from. As long as they could charge through this mountain, they would be able to return to the demon territory. On the mountain range, Situ Shui looked at Lei Chong's battered and exhausted appearance with her clear eyes. She said calmly, "Order the magic crystal cannons to adjust their accuracy and aim at Lei Chong. Lord said that we must kill Lei Chong. Blast him to death." Yes. The magic crystal cannons turned around and aimed at Lei Chong. When the cooldown was almost over, 3 magic crystal cannons fired at the same time. Bang! A mushroom cloud exploded. Lei Chong let out a miserable howl. His entire body was blown away by the fierce impact of the magic crystal cannons. He fell dozens of meters away like a withered leaf. The armor demons that followed him were all blown to pieces. Lei Chong's arm was injured and the armor on his body was peeling off. Blood kept flowing from his mouth. Woo-woo, he was like a wounded beast. Looking at Situ Shui on the mountain range, he roared, "You can't kill me." As soon as he finished speaking, another magic crystal cannon burst into a dazzling flame under his feet. Boom! Lei Chong's body was lifted up again. The earth energy on the surface of his body was blown to pieces, and the flesh on his chest was burnt to the point that his bones could almost be seen. However, he still stood up with the support of his warhammer. His head was burnt bald and his face was full of malevolence. He roared, "You despicable people! You only know how to scheme." Situ Shui slowly raised her arm and the magic crystal cannon shot out again. Bang! Lei Chong's arm that was holding the warhammer flew into the sky together with it. Chapter 595. Tell Situ Shui to stop the bombardment. Lin Muyu suddenly said. Yes. Although Wei Chou was somewhat puzzled, he still waved the flag and ordered Situ Shui to stop the bombardment. After nearly an hour of bombardment, there were no more armored demons left in the valley. Lei Chong was an exception. Holding her star's sword, Lin Muyu spurred her snow-treading horse towards Lei Chong's direction. When the smoke dispersed, Lin Muyu saw Lei Chong standing in the wilderness awkwardly, surrounded by terrifying craters. Apart from that, there were broken body parts of the armor demons everywhere. A burnt smell filled Lin Muyu's nose. Lin Muyu. Lei Chong's golden armor had been melted and stuck to his body, making him look like he was cast. He stood trembling in the smoke and roared, "Are you satisfied now? My army is gone, all gone. Are you finally satisfied now?" You demon, you killing god. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She rode forward and gently pressed the stellar sword on Lei Chong's shoulder. Kneel down. In your dreams. Kneel down. Lin Muyu roared. The Holy King domain covered the sky and the earth. The stellar sword trembled slightly. The rank 6 divine seal was quietly enhancing Lin Muyu's coercion ability. Lei Chong was seriously injured, so how could he resist? He knelt in front of Lin Muyu, but his scarlet eyes were full of resentment and unwillingness. Lei Chong looked at her fiercely and said, if you kill me, the divine race will still trample the human territory. Just wait and see, Qianfeng will definitely avenge me, ha. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Do you still remember that time in Winter Frost City when you cut off Lord Du Hai's head in order to cover my retreat? I will never forget that scene. I have cut off countless heads in my life. I don't know which one you are talking about. It doesn't matter. You'll end up the same way soon anyway. Lin Muyu did not wait for Lei Chong to speak again. Her sword flashed past and with a kacha, Lei Chong's gigantic head flew up into the sky. Lin Muyu quickly pulled out her sword and stabbed his head into the sword, raising it up high. On both sides of the mountain range, the human army cheered. Almost everyone felt like they had just survived a disaster. Wiping out Lei Chong's entire army should be an unprecedented victory for humans and the Longdan army camp, right? Before long, Qin Yin, Qin Yan, Situ Sin, Situ Shui, and the rest all came to the valley one after another. Qin Yan cupped his fists and said with a smile, congratulations to Big Brother for establishing such an unparalleled miraculous merit. Situ Shui said, my lord is indeed smart. He Lei Chong, this boorish fellow, still fell for it in the end. However, Lin Muyu wasn't too happy. The victory at the Longdan army camp was too difficult to come by. Not only did they lose close to 30,000 troops, they had also used up almost all of their magic crystal cannons. What was worse was that the demon race wasn't completely wiped out. They still had a very strong military force in the Zonglin Valley area. Military intelligence. Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's small hand and said to the people behind her. Fingxi cupped his fists and said, we seem to have only wiped out a large portion of the Lei Chong army in this battle. They still have about 30,000 armor demons coming as reinforcements. They will arrive in about an hour. My lord, should we ambush them again and wipe them out too? 30,000 people? Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. She said, no, let's retreat. Our cannons are about to be used up. Our arrows are exhausted and our weapons are severely damaged. If we fight another 30,000 armor demons, even if we can wipe them out, we will have to pay the price of the entire Longdan army camp. Pass down my order, everyone retreat. Yes. Situ Sin said, my lord, the magic crystal cannons are too heavy. Took us 2 days to move them from the flat ground to the mountain. If we carry them down, I'm afraid it will be too late. Oh. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and said, block the barrels of the magic crystal cannons and detonate them. Don't leave any for the demon race or the Iha country. Just take all the magic crystal cannons. What? Wei Chou was stunned and said with distress, Commander, 100 magic crystal cannons. Are we just going to give them up? Oh, it's too late. Blow them all up. Yes. Retreat. With a wave of the flag, the Longdan army camp retreated from the valley. They left in such a hurry that they didn't even have time to bury their companions' corpses. But that was the way of war. Small-hearted kindness would only bring greater losses or even death. At this time, the news that the valiant dragon army had annihilated the Thunder Chong army in the Nameless Valley had not yet spread. The only news that reached the Iha country was that the Empire's army had suffered a crushing defeat and the demon race had also suffered a great loss. Lin Muyu was setting up the 8-formation maze on the path of retreat to deal with the Thunder Chong army. Sword Garrett. Qin Yi, clad in a golden dragon robe, stood majestically on the Sword Garrett's stronghold. He looked at the misty Zonglin Valley in the distance. His eyes flickered with a profound light. What's the latest military intelligence? Jiao cupped his fists excitedly and said, Qin Yin has lost. Su Long's army was annihilated and Su Long committed suicide. More than 70% of the God Might Battalion was killed and 50% of the Steel Blade army was injured or killed. It is said that the demon race even set fire to their provisions. Currently, the Empire's army has completely retreated from the Zonglin Valley. Lin Muyu fought against the Thunder Chong army with only tens of thousands of soldiers and suffered a great loss. I estimate that the Empire's army has lost more than half of the 300,000 soldiers in the Zhonglin Valley. There are only 120,000 soldiers left. You mean Qin Yin only has 100,000 soldiers with her? That's right. Then, Qin Yi squinted and smiled. How are the demon race's losses? Ji Yao said, both sides lost about 1 against 4. The Empire lost 200,000 soldiers and the demon race lost about 50,000. However, the 8-formation maze that Lin Muyu set up is said to be very powerful. It has already caused the Thunder Chong army to lose tens of thousands of soldiers. And according to the information that our spies sent back, the demon race only sent a total of 150,000 soldiers into the Zhonglin Valley. Most of them have already died. Qin Yi touched the cold battlement and said, Qianfeng is cunning and cannot be careless. Where's he now? I don't know. Ji Yao smiled slightly and said, but I will congratulate the commander. Why do you congratulate? We have just received a letter. The human army that the demon race is building has already crossed the Cloud Ridge and is taking advantage of the situation to attack Tianshu Province and Yunzhong Province. If there are no accidents, Tianshu Province and Yunzhong Province are empty of soldiers and will soon change hands. But no. Qianfeng is most likely not in the Zhonglin Valley anymore. He is commanding the attack on Yunzhong Province and Tianshu Province. What? Qin Yi's body trembled. The demon race is attacking Yunzhong Province? That is Sumuyun, that old fox's nest. That's right. Ji Yao smiled and said, Yunzhong Province and Tianshu Province are the provinces where the Empire's population is concentrated. They provide a lot of soldiers. Qianfeng is not a fool. Occupying these 2 provinces means a lot to him. If it wasn't for these 2 provinces being too tempting, why would Qianfeng come to our sword pavilion personally to discuss the matter of dividing the Empire's territory? Qin Yi took a deep breath. How many people does the Lei Chong army have? Less than 100,000. Can Lin Muyu block Lei Chong's attack? Obviously not. The demon race's armored demon army is invincible in the field. Even Marshal Long's Iron Chain formation is not a match for Lei Chong, not to mention a mere Lin Muyu. Commander, we cannot hesitate anymore. The opportunity is fleeting. If we wait any longer, Lei Chong will destroy Lin Muyu's army. By then it will be too late for us to say anything. All right. Qin Yi heavily punched the battlement and turned to the group of generals and said, Ji Yao, listen to my order. You will be the frontline marshal and lead 200,000 soldiers out of the sword pavilion. Set up 10,000 arrow boxes and ambush the Lei Chong army from the rear. Qin Huan, listen to my order. You will lead 100,000 soldiers out of the sword pavilion and take a detour through the Qinling Mountains to attack Lin Muyu's rear. Tomorrow at noon we will attack together. Yes. Qin Huan raised his head and said, Father, we are going to destroy Lin Muyu, capture Qin Yin and kill Lei Chong. Qin Yi's eyes were filled with an unquestionable look. Indeed, if they did not seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the Iha kingdom would never be able to show off their power as the ruler of the continent. After all, Qin Yi was very clear about the empire's strength. Once Qin Yin was given enough time to organize all the feudal vassals, even 2 Iha kingdoms would not be a match for the empire. Southwest of the Zhonglin Valley, in the middle of the Qinling Mountains, there was a valley with birds chirping and flowers fragrant. It was already spring. The Turtle Valley was a valley embedded in the Qinling Mountains. It was surrounded by mountains and it was spring all year round. At this moment the sound of hooves and training could be heard from the Turtle Valley. There was also an endless stream of food being transported into the valley. Battle flags fluttered in the wind. Hidden in the Turtle Valley were the remaining 50,000 soldiers of Xiang Yu's army. On the mountain peak, Xiang Yu held the bloodthirsty spear and looked into the distance. His face was full of anxiety. Military report. Military report is here. A messenger shouted joyfully from afar. What military report? Xiang Yu's body trembled as he went forward and asked joyfully. The messenger replied, The Sword Pavilion has sent out their troops. I heard that the Sword Pavilion has sent out 300,000 soldiers for this morning's incident. The Iha kingdom has almost turned out all their troops in the Lingnan province. That's great. Xiang Yu clenched his fists, his face filled with ecstasy. It's time to make a great contribution. Brothers, eat and drink to your heart's content. Let's attack at night. Yes. In the Sword Pavilion, the last few thousand-man battalions in the Lingnan province had already galloped out of the Sword Pavilion and entered a fertile field. Qin Yi watched the army leave, his heart filled with anticipation and worry at the same time. However, he did not know that in the dense forest to the northeast of the Sword Pavilion, countless armor demons were silently lying in the weeds. All of them were gripping their weapons tightly. As for the commander-in-chief, Qianfeng, his eyes were filled with coldness as he looked into the distance. Whoosh whoosh. A winged person flapped his wings and descended from the sky. With a dejected expression he cried, "Commander-in-chief, something bad has happened. Commander-in-chief Lei Chong's troops have been defeated in the valley. More than 100,000 soldiers have perished. Commander-in-chief Lei Chong has died in battle." What? Qianfeng trembled as he stood there, his face pale. How could this be? How could this be? Chapter 596. Lei Chong led 200,000 soldiers. How did he lose? Qianfeng calmed down and looked at the winged person coldly. The winged man's arms and the wings on his back trembled at the same time. He said, "I couldn't see it clearly, but Marshal Lei Chong's troops were attacked by the humans outside of Songlin Valley. Later, the humans were defeated. Marshal Lei Chong led an army of more than 100,000 armor demons into a desolate valley. Then something strange happened. The humans launched an attack with a weapon that could spit fire. The earth exploded and the sky turned into blood clouds. Even Marshal Lei Chong and General Feng Xiuye were killed in the explosion." A weapon that could spit fire? Qianfeng frowned. Whose army defeated Lei Chong? It was the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu again. Qianfeng gritted his teeth and growled. Lin Muyu has ruined our celestial race's plans again and again. Damn it. Next to him, a high-ranking demon general wearing the insignia of a captain asked respectfully, "Marshal, the 300,000 elites of the Iha nation have already left the Sword Pavilion. In another 2 hours they will completely leave the Sword Pavilion's territory. Should we continue with our mission?" Of course, why not? Qianfeng's face was full of murderous intent. He raised his fist and said, "Send my order to the entire army. Move out immediately. This time we will first take care of Iha nation, then Lin Muyu and the Empire's army. Someone summon the big guys to help us. We must eliminate the 300,000 soldiers of Iha nation with the least losses." Woo woo woo. Above the mountains the demon's conch sounded through the clouds. Instantly, countless armor demons hiding in the dense forest rushed out with shields. As the conch and the winged person waved the flags in the air, countless demon troops rushed out from the mountains in the east, south and north of Songlin Valley. Their flags fluttered in the air. Qianfeng was not going to attack Heaven's Pivot Province or Cloud Province. He had at least 200,000 soldiers lying in ambush here. What's wrong? In Songlin Valley the densely packed Iha country troops were advancing at high speed. Suddenly, a howling sound was heard from the mountains on both sides. Jiao could not help but rein in his warhorse, looked into the distance and asked, "What's going on?" Yi Xuanhuan frowned and said, It seems like the horn of the demon race to attack." "How is that possible? Didn't the military report just say that the demons have already been defeated?" "Humph, do you think that a mere few tens of thousands of remnant soldiers can attack my 300,000 elite soldiers? The fiend race is looking down on people too much." With that, Jiao raised his fist and ordered loudly, "Warriors of the Iha nation, summon your courage and prepare to kill the enemy. They only have a few tens of thousands of people. Get into our formation and fight." Dong 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 dong. As the war drums made of cowhide rumbled, the Iha kingdom's army stopped and formed a defensive formation in the 10-mile valley. At this time they could vaguely see the figures of the armor demon army in the distance. They were so dense that they covered the mountains and plains, and the wing people also appeared in the sky, blocking out the sun. "It doesn't look like there are only a few tens of thousands of them." Yi Xuanhuan squinted and said angrily, "We've been tricked. The demon race has not been defeated at all. This is just a show put on by the demon race and the Empire to lure us out of seclusion." "Impossible," Jiao said coldly. "If they used the Thunder Chong army as the price to lure us out of seclusion, the price is too high. Only the Qianfeng army is attacking us. Pass down my order, get ready to fight. Tell the rear to retreat slowly and open up the main road between us and the Sword Garret." "It's too late." If the Qianfeng army really wanted to surround and kill us, the sword garret would have been attacked. Humph, that's impossible. Ji Yao turned around and bowed respectfully to Ouyang Yan, who was riding on a white warhorse, and said, Imperial Preceptor, the demon race has framed us. Now we are in a dilemma. Imperial Preceptor, please fight side by side with us and kill our way out. Don't worry. Ouyang Yan looked at the demon race army from afar and said with a smile, Are those the demon race? I have cultivated in the heaven realm for thousands of years, but I didn't know there was such a race in the mortal world. Marshal Ji Yao, just fight. I will help you. Yes. Ji Yao abruptly drew out his saber as he started to command the core of Iha country to resist the demon's attack. Shields fell onto the ground one after another and formed a shield formation. From the gaps of the shields, long spears with cold light were thrusting out obliquely. Behind the shields, immature faces were watching the armored demons surging towards them like tide water. These young soldiers had almost not seen demons. However, they had to fight demons at the risk of their lives in such a dilemma. Gather your courage. A centurion held his sword and shouted with a trembling voice, We are the warriors of the Iha country. For our ideals, for the peace of the world, we will have no regrets even if our blood is spilled on this land. Get ready to fight. Although he was shouting, his hands were shaking so much that the scabbard on his waist and the sword ring collided with each other. It was very funny. Howl. In the boundless valley, the armor demons, which were nearly 10 miles long, swept over. Waving their weapons, the armor demons crazily rushed into the position of the Iha country. Bang, bang, bang. They broke the steel shields of the Iha country and stabbed their spears and battle axes into the bodies of the Iha country soldiers. Blood splashed like red wildflowers blooming in the early spring. Arrows release. Steel ballistas ready. Yi Xuanhuan commanded the battle loudly. Meanwhile, he had already pulled out his sword and slashed an armor demon into 2 halves, which greatly boosted the morale of the Iha country. However, there were too many armor demons. After killing a dozen of them, Yi Xuanhuan felt that his strength was not enough. Panting heavily, he spurred his horse back. Behind the crowd, giant ballistas at least 5 m long were set up one after another. Each ballista was loaded with 7 to 8 dark giant arrows. These were the new weapons developed by the Iha country. A dozen soldiers pulled the ropes one after another. After accumulating strength, they suddenly loosened the ropes. Instantly, the arrows flew out violently and directly penetrated the hard armor of the armor demons. After one round of shooting, dozens of armor demons were killed. Shields up. A human language came from the rear of the armor demons. The high-level demons were supervising the battle. Armor demons were not intelligent, but the high-level demons were very shrewd. For a moment, all the armor demons raised their shields and crazily rushed forward. Facing the shooting of the steel ballistas, they didn't retreat at all. In the blink of an eye, they broke the second line of defense of the Iha country and waved their weapons to kill indiscriminately. These bastards. Ji Yao sat in the center of the army, hand on the hilt of his sword. Looking around, he said, Continue to form a line of defense. Don't let the demons break into the center easily. Archers shoot the enemies. However, everybody knew that the arrows shot by human hands were not powerful enough. Even if the armor demons were not equipped with armors, these arrows could not penetrate through the hard skin of the armor demons, not to mention that the armor demons were equipped with armors. Howl, howl, howl. In the roar, the armor demons attacked crazily and hit the shield of the Iha country with their bodies, which scared the soldiers of the Iha country out of their wits. At this moment, there was a sudden burning sensation. In the air, the rocks within dozens of meters in the valley were instantly burned red, and flames erupted from the ground. In the screams, the armor demons fell into a sea of fire. In the air, Ouyang Yan stepped on the flames barefoot and looked at the armor demons coldly. She said, They are indeed a group of monsters. She raised her palm and in the blink of an eye, another wave of divine power was launched. The raging flames gathered in her palm and formed a huge flaming blade that was at least 100 meters long. The corners of Ouyang Yan's mouth curled up, and with a shout she launched a fierce attack. Boom! The giant flame saber cut the crowd of armor demons into pieces, and even flattened a hill that was nearly 10 meters high not far away. The next moment the giant flame saber suddenly exploded and spread to both sides. At least 500 armor demons had been killed and injured in just one attack. At the same time, Ouyang Yan didn't have any scruples at all. Even the dozens of Iha country soldiers nearby were burned to ashes. My God, Jiao was dumbfounded. A chiliarch of Iha country gritted his teeth and said angrily in a low voice, "This goddess actually killed the soldiers of Iha country. Is she really sent by the heavenly realm to reinforce our Iha country?" How could Ouyangyan not hear it? However, this kind of complaint was like the curse of an ant to her. What difference did it make if she heard it or not? At this moment, there was a sudden dull roar of a beast from the sky. Roar, roar, roar. Yi Xuanhuan hurriedly looked over and saw a huge monster flying over from the other side of the mountain range. It was a monster covered with scales. It was about 100 meters long and its body was like a bloated giant snake. Its head was very ferocious and its back and wings were covered with black spikes. Anyone could see that this thing was not easy to deal with. What kind of monster is that? Ji Yao swallowed his saliva and his heart was filled with fear. It's probably a kind of spirit beast. Yi Xuanhuan had the cultivation of the Holy King realm, so he was naturally much calmer than Ji Yao. I have never seen such a huge spirit beast. Ji Yao pulled out his long sword and roared, "What do we do? Who can deal with this big guy?" Fire Dance Divine Monarch Ouyangyan's palm was enshrouded in flames, and she said calmly, "Commander Yi, if you don't fight this monster then I'll have to go?" Yi Xuanhuan respectfully cupped his fists and said, "This subordinate is only at the Holy King realm. This monster looks very powerful, so I will have to rely on your majesty to personally subdue it." Ouyangyan laughed coldly. The giant flying snake was a new species in the demon race's insect nest. It was also a new overlord class of the demon race. The flying snake didn't rely on its wings to fly. The fins on both sides of its body were very short and could not support its flight at all. The only thing that could truly allow its huge body to fly was the force field that existed within its body. Wherever the flying snake flew, the ground would be instantly crushed into powder. This could be seen from this. The giant flying snake's eyes were very ferocious. It twisted its huge body and suddenly rushed down, opening its bloody mouth. As expected, an azure blue halo rapidly expanded in its mouth like a whirlpool. It was actually absorbing. Chapter 597. What's going on? The Iha nation soldiers standing amidst the rubble and holding heavy shields were all dumbfounded. Their bodies actually moved forward involuntarily. A strong wind blew, and the flying snake's bloody mouth was like a huge force field that swept everything in its path. Pieces of rubble were first absorbed by the giant flying snake. Sharp teeth appeared behind the blue force field in its mouth, grinding all the rubble into pieces. God d***, what kind of monster is this? Yi Xuanhuan gritted his teeth. Amidst the screams, Iha nation soldiers were continuously sucked into the giant flying snake's mouth and turned into a pile of minced meat. This giant flying snake had a really good appetite. Not only did it not spit out bones after eating people, it even ate shields, spears and swords. In the air, Fire Dance Celestial Monarch Ouyangyan was indifferent. Her gaze was indifferent as she observed the flying snake's movements, as if she had no intention of taking action. Ji Yao could not help but shout, "Use the heavenly book. I want to see if this flying snake can eat the power of heaven and earth." Yes. A dozen or so chiliarchs urged their horses forward and raised the weapons in their hands. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen heavenly books were activated. Rock walls, flames and icy rays danced wildly as they charged at the flying snake. The flying snake trembled and roared in a terrifying manner. Its eyes were filled with ferocity, and the force field in its mouth became even more piercingly cold. As expected, the power of the heavenly book that was pouncing at the flying snake's huge body was also absorbed. The rock walls, flames and other energy disappeared in the blink of an eye, forcibly digested by the force field. This giant flying snake could really eat the power of heaven and earth. Hehe. The flying snake's body trembled, and the spikes on its body surface shot out countless amounts of venomous liquid. Instantly, hundreds of Iha nation soldiers on the ground died. How is this possible? Ji Yao took a few steps back. In his heart, the heavenly book was a sacred and untouchable item, a divine item that was bestowed to the human world by the heaven realm. How could the power of heaven and earth be absorbed by an idiot like the giant flying snake? At this moment, Ouyangyan finally made her move. She stepped into the air and slowly walked toward the flying snake. Her palms were filled with vigorous flames, and the corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile. What a sweet spirit stone! Roar! The flying snake roared furiously and suddenly charged at Ouyang. Its bloody mouth was still open and it forcefully absorbed everything in the world. Immediately, nearly 100 righteous nation soldiers howled miserably as they were sucked in and minced into pieces. Ouyang's body stepped into the flying snake's force field amidst the corpses of the righteous nation soldiers. In the blink of an eye, Ouyang activated the vast divine power of the law of fire in her body and shouted angrily, "Beast, you want to eat me? Do you have such a good appetite? If you want to eat, then eat. I'll let you eat your fill." Hong! Flames soared into the sky and in the blink of an eye, the halo of the flying snake's force field was burned red. It roared cruelly and continued to absorb Ouyang's power. It had no other choice. The body of the giant flying snake gradually expanded. The divine power of a divine king was too vast. Even if Ouyang did not have a divine spark, her power was still maintained at the divine king realm. In the blink of an eye, the body of the flying snake seemed to expand to the point that it was about to explode. Cracks appeared between the scales on its body, and wisps of flames spurted out from the cracks. Ouyang's divine power of fire was too strong, so the giant flying snake had to use this method to reduce the force. Finally, there was a sudden explosion in the air. Flames soared into the sky and the power was earth-shattering. The huge body of the giant flying snake disintegrated inch by inch and was devoured by the flames. Its heavy body fell with a loud bang, lying between two mountains. It was like a divine dragon that had fallen from the heaven realm, and its body was completely burned by the flames. Ouyang was still standing in the air. She spread her 5 fingers and a suction force quickly sucked the giant flying snake's spirit stone out of its head. It was a huge spirit stone with a radius of 10 centimeters. Ouyang couldn't help but smile. She opened her mouth lightly and a golden energy was spat out. It was the heart-devouring secret arts Xian energy. This golden energy quickly lingered around the spirit stone, disintegrating the spirit stone inch by inch into pure energy. Then it was absorbed and refined by Ouyang one by one. Not long after, the huge spirit stone had actually been completely absorbed. Ouyang couldn't help but let out a satisfied cry. She stood in the air with her peaks at least 36 and breathed for a while. When she opened her eyes, the light in her eyes became even more vigorous. Her cultivation had increased again. "Congratulations, Grand Preceptor." Yaozi rushed forward and cupped his fists. "I'm afraid that if there are a few more monsters, Grand Preceptor's power will be enough to condense a divine spark." Ouyang could not help but sneer. "Do you think it is so easy to condense a divine king-level divine spark? Forget about a few more, even if there are 100 of such monsters, you will not be able to condense a divine spark." Yao was given the cold shoulder and he stood there awkwardly. "General Ji, go and command the battle. I will help you," Ouyang said indifferently. "Yes." Yao turned around, raised his long sword and shouted, "Kill the enemy bravely, long live the Iha nation." Ouyang killing the flying snake was undoubtedly a victory for the Iha nation. It greatly boosted the morale of the Iha nation, which was originally on the verge of collapse, and made the Iha nation's battle formation regroup and continue to fight against the devil race. The fierce battle continued until dusk, but the Iha nation's situation became more and more disadvantageous. The devil race's offensive was too fierce, and their combat power was too strong. The Iha nation's 200,000 elite soldiers were forcibly cut into 7 or 8 pieces, and they fought separately in the valley. Even Yao's command could not be unified. Qianfeng used the cutting tactic to break the Iha nation's combat power. This was something that Yao and Yi Xuanhuan could not do at all. The sunset sprinkled on the battlefield like blood. Yao's face was full of disappointment. He knew that the situation was hopeless. After half a day of fierce fighting, more than half of the 200,000 elite soldiers under his control had been lost. Now the only thing he could rely on was the 100,000 elite soldiers led by Qin Huan. As long as Qin Huan led the army to break through the devil race's encirclement from the west of the Songlin Valley, his group still had a chance to survive. At least there was a chance that he could survive. Hong! Flames swept the valley and a group of armored demons screamed. Ouyang withdrew and flew back. After a day of killing, she had already used up more than half of her divine power. She needed a good rest, otherwise her strength would not be able to recover. Are you alright, Grand Preceptor? Yi Xuanhuan asked with concern. I'm fine. Ouyang Yen sat on a protruding rock, and her body was surrounded by golden flames. She took a deep breath and said, Today's battle has already ended. Doesn't Marshal Ji have any idea of breaking through? Yi Xuanhuan said, The devil race has at least 30,000 soldiers blocking the west exit of the Zhonglin Valley. It will be difficult for us to break through. Moreover, there was no reply to the letter sent to His Highness Qin Huan. I'm afraid that they are also in danger. Oh, Ouyang Yen said lightly, if that's the case then we can only protect ourselves. Commander Yi, you should quickly gather your subordinates to break through the west. Otherwise, the Iha country's army will all be buried here. Yes. 30 miles away at dusk under the Qinling Mountains, the 100,000 elite soldiers led by Qin Huan were moving slowly. Hua hua hua. A messenger bird descended from the sky and landed on the shoulder of a captaincy. He took out the letter and glanced at it. He couldn't help but tremble. What did Royal Father say? Qin Huan said lightly, Did he order us to reinforce Marshal Ji or? The major commander shook his head and said, Great Commander ordered us to continue advancing towards the west and attack the nearest Tanxi Pass from the north while he will order Long Qianlin and Dingxi to attack Tanxi Pass from the south. After taking down Tanxi Pass in one fell swoop, the troops will advance to Swift White Province and join forces with the Marquis of the Sunset, Man Ning. Is Royal Father going to give up Marshal Ji's 200,000 elite soldiers? Qin Huan was stunned. I'm afraid that the 200,000 elite soldiers are gone. Since we have already fallen into the trap, even if we go to reinforce now it will be of no use. Little Highness, let's act according to the plan. And speed up the march. Yes. When the moonlight rose in the Tsongnan province of the Qinling Mountains at the Turtle Valley, a row of elite soldiers wearing the Empire's armor came out in a line. They entered Lingnan through the small path of the Turtle Valley. Everyone mounted their horses and galloped quickly in the direction of Bailing City. At the front of the formation was Xianxia, who wore the Empire's commander insignia. Bailing City was the center of the Tsongnan province. It was also the economic and ruling center of the entire Iha country. As long as Bailing City was captured, the Iha country would be like a beast that had its heart stolen, and its strength would be greatly reduced. At the side, the Tang family's General Tang Yu, who was galloping madly on his horse, frowned and said, Commander Xiang, the Empire's army is fighting the demons in Zhonglin Valley and is in imminent danger. But we took the south to attack the Tsongnan province. The whole thing seems too rash. Although I am a general of the Tang family, I am also a soldier of the Empire. Does Her Highness know about this? Xianxia smiled lightly. General Tang Yu, do you think I am the kind of person who disobeys the Emperor's order? But, no buts, take a look yourself. Xianxia reached into his bosom and took out a golden scroll. He shook his hand and passed it to Tang Yu. This is the Empress's edict? Tang Yu's hands were slightly trembling as he held the Empress's edict in front of his chest. He glanced at it and read every word clearly. The order is for Xianxia to lead the army to retreat and pretend to be defeated. When the 300,000 elite troops of the Jiang'a Iha country come out of their seclusion, the demons will naturally attack. After the troops retreat, Xianxia is to immediately lead the army to the Turtle Valley and cross the mountains to attack Bailing City in the Lingnan. General Lei Manfong, who is guarding the city, will receive the general and take Bailing City in one fell swoop. The Emperor's Order, written by Qin Yin. The huge imperial jade seal glowed with golden ink. Tang Yu had no choice but to believe it. He couldn't help but tremble and said, Is this Her Highness's order? Xianxia said lightly, What else? Do you think I would act on my own? Tang Yu raised his head and looked at the starry sky blankly. But when Her Highness ordered the troops to retreat, Su Long's entire army was annihilated. Su Yi died in battle, and the God Might Battalion suffered great losses. Is it really worth it? Xianxia couldn't help but sneer. Su Long is one of the Empire's commanders, but he only listens to Su Muyun's orders. What's the point of keeping such a person? Even if he is loyal to Her Highness, he might not be very loyal. Tang Yu, I, Xianxia, am a soldier of the Empire and a descendant of the God of War, Xiang Wentian. I only have one thing to do, and that is to rebuild the achievements of my ancestors and make them shine. Tang Yu felt a chill in his heart. Commander Xiang, you are Duke Lan's grandson-in-law. Shouldn't you be loyal to Duke Lan? Duke Lan. Xiang Yu laughed. First there was the Empire, then there was Duke Lan. I can still differentiate this matter. Otherwise, how do you think Tang Lu and Tang Tian died? Could it be you? Tang Yu was dumbfounded. Xiang Yu lowered the bloodthirsty spear in his hand. King's battle flames lingered around it, and his killing intent was already very sharp. He smiled and said, General Tang Yu, you are a smart person. If you are loyal to me and Her Highness, I can let you live. Tang Yu couldn't help but wail in his heart. He cupped his fists and said, This subordinate is a soldier of the Empire. I will naturally listen to the Empress's orders and die 10,000 times. That's good. Let's speed up the march. General Lei Manfong should have already opened the city gates for us. Tang Yu's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. His heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. Tang Lan and Su Muyun both thought that Qin Yin was still young and inexperienced, and that she still had a lot of potential. But now, if this series of interlocking strategies really came from Qin Yin's hands, Qin Yin would no longer be the Qin Yin of the past. She would be the true empress of the empire. She was no longer that innocent girl, but a queen who ruled over the world and reigned supreme. Chapter 598. In the western suburbs of Lanyan City, the empire's purple Yinhua war flag fluttered in the wind. 200,000 demons and 50,000 soldiers were stationed here. In order to prevent Lanyan City from falling, Tang Xiaoxi had put in a lot of effort. In the north of the camp, in an inconspicuous tent, Tang Xiaoxi had a scroll spread out on her knees. It was the words of the divine book of fire that Lin Muyu had copied in the forest of heavenly tome steels. These words were very obscure and difficult to understand. Originally, there was nothing special about the words, but after connecting them into paragraphs, it became very exhausting to study, so that even with Tang Xiaoxi's cultivation, she could not see through the mysteries in a short period of time. Whirling flame, extreme earth flame, ancient scroll. Tang Xiaoxi's fingers gently stroked the scroll, and her whole body was immersed in the state of mind brought by the scroll. Suddenly, the surrounding scenery disappeared and was replaced by a piece of flying flame. She did not know when she was already in a purgatory like lava, and the surrounding heat rose as if it was going to burn and evaporate everything in the world. Oh, Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but let out a whimper. The scorching temperature made her involuntarily summon her fire fox martial soul to resist. A four-tailed fire fox chirped as it leapt onto her shoulder. Its four tails danced in the air, providing a protective layer of energy for its master. Where is this? Tang Xiaoxi looked around. The endless sea of lava, thick smoke, and no one was there. She opened her beautiful eyes wide and continued to ask, Where is this? Is there anyone here? It was still silent. After nearly 10 minutes, finally, a golden light fell from the sky, as if a door of space had been opened. Then a majestic voice came from the sky. This is the heavenly imperial gate. People of the mortal world, why are you not aware of the heavenly realm? Heaven and earth are vast and all living beings are vast. You are fated with the heavenly book, so you should carefully comprehend it. Who are you? Tang Xiaoxi blinked and asked. Me. People call me Fuxi and also Emperor Qing. Fuxi. Tang Xiaoxi had heard of this name from Lin Muyu. She couldn't help but say excitedly, God Emperor Fuxi? Did I already comprehend the divine book of the law of fire? Fuxi burst into laughter and said, People of the mortal world, concentrate on comprehending. This old man will be leaving. With a schwa sound, the heavenly imperial gate in the sky closed as if nothing had happened, and Tang Xiaoxi stood on a piece of fiery red lava, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. Everything was so unreal. Previously, when she wrote the spiritual book, a state of mind also appeared, but that kind of real feeling seemed to exist, not like the illusory feeling in front of her. However, the surrounding temperature was getting higher and higher, to the point that Tang Xiaoxi had to release her king's battle flame to resist the high temperature. The cries of the fire fox on her shoulder became even more shrill. Jia jia jia. Tang Xiaoxi also felt a burst of irritation for no reason. Her state of mind rapidly became chaotic, and the power in her body grew uncontrollably. All of a sudden, it broke out of her body and she had already entered the state of nine-tailed transformation. The 9 flame tails danced in the flames, and Tang Xiaoxi's pair of beautiful eyes also turned golden. The same state of mind, the same situation, she already knew what had happened. Come out. Tang Xiaoxi shouted, raised her palm, and a divine seal broke through the air. With a hong sound, it stirred up a wave of fire in the magma, and in the middle of the fire, a human figure was slowly condensing. It was actually the same as Tang Xiaoxi, a beautiful nine-tailed demon fox, with the same beautiful appearance, the same golden eyes, but her figure was slim and she was actually not wearing a single piece of cloth. It was as if Tang Xiaoxi was seeing her naked body. In an instant, Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red and she shouted, "Who the hell are you?" She, in the flames, let out an extremely seductive voice and said, "I am you and you are me, why do you ask?" "No, you are not me." Tang Xiaoxi gritted her teeth and said, "You are just a despicable and dirty slut." "Is that so?" She, in the flames, chuckled. "Am I really that kind of person? Then what about you? Tang Xiaoxi, look at how much of a failure you are. When you met Lin Muyu in Silver Fir City, you started to like him, but now he is left by another woman. Do you know why Qin Yin arranged for Lin Muyu to be by her side? Because she wants to possess him. Tang Xiaoxi, why are you willing to give the person you love to another woman? Why don't you fight for him? Are you really a useless trash?" Tang Xiaoxi was slightly startled, and her eyes revealed a trace of unwillingness but even more fear. She couldn't believe that the thoughts that flew through her mind at this moment were actually so rebellious. The fiery tail behind her danced even more seductively, and Tang Xiaoxi's mind was in chaos. She couldn't help but kneel on the magma in pain and hugged her head as she curled up there. Nine Tails in the flames slowly walked over, and her eyes revealed a fierce light and said with a smile, "Do you know why Tang Lu and Tang Tian hate Qin Yin so much? Because she treats everyone in the world as her pawns. He has never trusted anyone, including you. In her eyes, there is only the world and the throne. You and Lin Muyu are just her pawns. Psych. Poor you, poor Lin Muyu, and I thought that Qin Yin cherished you, but you are just pawns for Qin Yin to seize the world. Xiaoxi, Qin Yin has never truly loved Lin Muyu. Are you so willing to give the person you love to a woman who uses him?" "No. No." Tang Xiaoxi's expression was very painful. Her 5 fingers slowly extended into golden claws, scratching her skin, and blood flowed down. She curled up there, trembling all over, but she kept murmuring, "I will not betray Xiao Yin, I will never betray Xiao Yin, she is the same, Xiao Yin will never betray our oath, never. Silly girl, she is an emperor and you are just a princess, how can you compare?" She gently stroked Tang Xiaoxi's shoulder and said, "The future should be in your hands. You know what you need, Xiaoxi, you have always been a smart girl. Qin Yin is a woman who only has eyes for the world. She is not worthy of you risking your life for her, and she is not worthy of Lin Muyu risking her life to kill the enemy for her. Wake up, you are Tang Xiaoxi, you are the supreme Nine Tails. Use your power well and you will be the master of the world. Get out of my way." Tang Xiaoxi suddenly seemed to be furious and her beautiful face was a bit ferocious. She suddenly raised her claws and pressed Nine Tails directly into the lava. Her golden eyes were full of ruthlessness and she said, "I can't even control you, how can I be the master of the world? Go to hell, get out of my Ehai, you annoying bad thing." "Ahaha." Nine-Tailed laughed. "I am you. How do you want me to get out of your mind? Kill me. Killing me is equivalent to killing yourself. Go to hell." Tang Xiaoxi suddenly exerted force. The God-exterminating seal of the 12th heaven of the fire god seal erupted from her palm, instantly shredding Nine-Tailed's body to pieces. However, it seemed that Nine-Tailed did not die. That coquettish laughter still reverberated in her mind, causing Tang Xiaoxi to have another headache. He curled up in pain. "Princess. Princess." With Tang Zhen's call, Tang Xiaoxi slowly woke up and her face was slightly pale. "Princess, what's wrong with you?" Tang Zhen frowned and said, "It's as if you have been possessed by the devil. Princess, are you okay?" Tang Xiaoxi found that she had fallen asleep on the table in the tent, and could not help but feel suspicious and said, "I'm fine." "Tang Zhen, what time is it now?" "Princess, today is the 16th of February and it's evening now. We have just received military intelligence from the front line. Nearly 400,000 troops of the Empire fought the Devil Race in Songlin Valley, and they were defeated. Then one of the 2 Devil Race marshals, Lei Chong, led 200,000 troops to ambush them. Commander Yu annihilated more than 100,000 armor demons and 30,000 winged people in the Demon Fall Valley with the power of the magic crystal cannon. The Lei Chong Legion was almost completely annihilated. Really? That's great. Tang Xiaoxi smiled happily. I knew that Mu's magic crystal cannon would be very powerful, but it's not easy to kill 100,000 armor demons. How did he do it? I don't know, but... Tang Zhen pondered and said, after the devil race and the empire suffered heavy losses, the 300,000 elite troops of the Iha nation went to the Sword Pavilion, but fell into the devil race's trap. Currently, Qianfeng is leading 200,000 troops of the devil race to surround the Iha nation's troops in Songlin Valley. Tang Xiaoxi raised her eyebrows and said, since the Lei Chong Legion of the devil race was defeated, why would Qianfeng send his troops out rashly? Tang Zhen said, I don't know, but according to my deduction, Qianfeng's original plan was for the Lei Chong Legion to defeat Commander Yu's army, then turn around and attack together with the Qianfeng Legion to annihilate the Iha nation's troops. It's just that Qianfeng didn't expect the Lei Chong Legion to be defeated, and even Lei Chong himself was beheaded by Commander Yu. That's great. What about grandfather? Is there any news? Feng Jixing has repelled Long Qianlin and Ding Shi's attacks more than 10 times. The defense of the 3 passes is very stable. Don't worry, Duke Lan is with Commander Feng Jixing. Nothing will happen. Did Grandpa write a letter in his own hand? The battle in Songlin Valley is at a stalemate and it's time to use troops. If Tang Lu's 300,000 elite troops can go to Songlin Valley to help, they can definitely win the battle. No. Tang Zhen cupped his fists and said, Duke Lan didn't respond to the messengers we sent. He didn't even see them. This. Tang Xiaoxi frowned slightly. What's Tang Lu's doing? The 7 passes have been preparing provisions and forging armaments. They look like they're ready to go. I think Tang Lu will come out at any time, but the target of his attack will be Lanyan City. Humph. Chapter 599. 20 miles to the west of the Songlin Valley, there was a spacious open field in the woods. Flags were flying in the air. After the war, the army of the empire was resting here. There were more than 100 barracks for wounded soldiers. Staff and vehicles of the elixir department from Songnan province came here in an endless stream, bringing a large number of medicines and supplies. Abundant supplies were the most important factor for the empire to contend with the demons. Wu. In the camp, the howling of the blazing black tortoise came from afar. It was the wounded blazing black tortoise in the last war. Lin Muyu, Situ Sin, Situ Shui, Fengxi and others were patrolling in the camp, inspecting everything. Although there were nearly 150,000 soldiers in this camp, the real fighting force was only that of the Longdan army camp. The God Might Battalion and the Iron Blade Army had suffered heavy losses and could no longer fight for the time being. The most tragic one was the corps led by Su Long. Only a few hundred of them escaped along the Rice River. The rest of them were all killed. This was the most tragic battle since the destruction of Winter Frost City. Looking at the blazing black tortoise being treated by Chu Yao in the distance, Lin Muyu's tightly knitted eyebrows finally relaxed a little. She walked forward and gently stroked the shell of the blazing black tortoise. She smiled and said, Sister Chu Yao, you can even treat spirit beasts? You're almost a vet. Chu Yao glanced at him grumpily. She didn't stop applying medicine on the blazing black tortoise. She smiled and said, You, the front army is so busy with the war, but you still have time to joke with me here. No matter how fierce the war is, we can't lose our mind. Lin Muyu smiled and patted on Chu Yao's shoulder. She said, Sister Chu Yao, you go on with your work. I'm going to the meeting. Go ahead. Just as Chu Yao had said, Lin Muyu was extremely busy right now. After inspecting the campsite, she immediately led Situ Sun, Fengxi, and the other generals to the headquarters. After entering the tent, Qin Yin, Su Muyun, Zhen Yifan, Luo Exen, and the others were already waiting. Yu's here. Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, Come quickly, I've been waiting for you. Yes. Lin Muyu walked up and noticed that the flags on the sand table had changed. She pointed at the purple flag outside 100 Ridge City and said, Whose army is this? I don't know, His Highness has just placed it here, Luo Exen replied. Zhen Yifan, on the other hand, squinted his eyes and chuckled. Your Highness, the war is already at a stalemate, so why don't you tell us some things? Although we are all old men, we can at least provide your Highness with some information. Qin Yin nodded and said, First of all, Xiao Yin would like to apologize to everyone here. I sent Xiangyu to contact Qianfeng without everyone's permission to plot against the Iha nation. Lin Muyu was stunned. Xiao Yin, you contacted Qianfeng? Strictly speaking, it was Commander Xiangyu who contacted Qianfeng. Qin Yin said slowly. After the army arrived at Five Valley City, Commander Xiangyu sent a secret envoy to meet Qianfeng and made an agreement to plot against the Iha nation together. However, Qianfeng is a sly old fox, so he made an agreement with the Empire to feign defeat and the demons to suffer heavy losses to lure the Iha nation to send out their troops. However, he didn't expect it to really happen. The Empire's situation was very tragic, and Big Brother Yu took advantage of the situation and defeated the Thunder Rush army in the Demon Fall Valley. Zhen Yifan was stunned and said, if it was a demon who plotted to lure out the Iha nation's army, this move was too sinister. If Commander Yu didn't defeat the Thunder Rush army, then even if the Iha nation sent out their troops, the demons would be able to easily annihilate them. Then they would direct their troops at the Empire. At that time, the humans would probably not have any more chances. Qin Yin looked straight at Lin Muyu and said, Big Brother, you spent so much money on researching new weapons, I believe that he wouldn't disappoint me. Therefore, I bet that Big Brother you would be able to defeat the Thunder Rush army. He indeed didn't disappoint me. He established this unparalleled achievement and directly annihilated the Thunder Rush army. Lin Muyu was a little speechless. You should have told me about this in advance. I know, I'm sorry. Qin Yin pouted and acted like a spoiled child. All right. Lin Muyu nodded and felt a wave of irritation in her heart. If everything was single-handedly manipulated by Qin Yin, then it meant that Qin Yin knew that Su Long's army, the God Might Battalion and the Steel Blade army would suffer heavy losses or even be annihilated. However, she still tolerated all of this. Unknowingly, Qin Yin seemed to have learned such trickery. However, Lin Muyu didn't know whether she was happy or depressed. Such a Qin Yin was a qualified ruler, but she was no longer that innocent girl. Now let's talk about what to do. Su Muyun frowned and said, Qianfeng's 200,000 soldiers surrounded Ji Yao's 200,000 elite soldiers and massacred them in Songlin Valley. This is already the second day. I'm afraid that less than half of Ji Yao's 200,000 elite soldiers are left. What should we do now? Take the initiative to attack or? Zheng Yifan relaxed his brows and said, this old official heard that the demon race has used a new type of soldier called the flying snake. It's huge in size and extremely destructive. These flying snakes are the biggest reason why the Iha country was defeated so quickly. Most of the soldiers we have now are injured soldiers. Once the demon race annihilates Ji Yao's army, how should we respond? As far as I know, Commander Yu has already ordered the destruction of the 100 magic crystal cannons. Without these weapons we are no match for the demon race. Don't worry, Divine Marquis. Lin Muyu pressed her palm on the edge of the sand table and said with a smile, 2 days ago Qin Ziling sent me a letter. The new batch of magic crystal cannons has already been transported by the waterway of Dao River. If it's not today, then it'll arrive tomorrow. I've already sent Wei Chou to lead 5,000 people to the waterway to welcome them. That's great. Zheng Yifan said with a smile. Where does Commander Yu plan to fight the demon race? Everyone is tired, so there's no need to go too far. Lin Muyu stamped her feet and said, this is a natural battlefield. Why do we need to give up what's close at hand and seek what's far away? Qin Yin stared blankly. Are we going to fight the demon race on the plains? Lin Muyu looked at her and said, no matter how strong the Qianfeng army is, eating up Ji Yao's 200,000 elite soldiers will definitely hurt their muscles and bones. Moreover, the demon race has always thought that we humans are good at tricks and are unwilling to fight them on the plains. This time, we'll rely on the magic crystal cannons to fight them on the plains. Xiaoyin, you sent Xiangyu to Bailing City. Do you want to take advantage of the fact that Bailing City is empty and take over one of the 7 famous cities on the continent? And as long as we capture Bailing City, it's equal to defeating half of the Iha country. I hope Xiangyu succeeds. Lin Muyu sighed softly and said, Situ Sen Situ Shui. Immediately dispatch the Longdan army camp to the open space in front of us and prepare to fight the Qianfeng army. Yes, Commander. Everyone disperse. Yes. Everyone left one after another. Soon only Qin Yin and Lin Muyu were left. Qin Yin stood there in a daze. She knew that Lin Muyu definitely had something to say, so she looked at him and said, Do you blame me for being ruthless? I don't. Oh, you do. Qin Yin looked at him with a gaze as sharp as a sword and said, You've never lied. Everything is written on your face. I know you blame me for being such a scheming woman. Sulong, there's no need for you to die. The Divine Might Battalion is loyal to the Empire, so there's no need for them to pay such a huge price. Lin Muyu looked at Qin Yin and suddenly felt a sense of unfamiliarity. She murmured, Xiao Yin, you've changed. Yes, I've changed. Qin Yin looked at him in a daze. Her beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist and tears were swirling in her eyes. She said, I really hope that the person in front of me isn't me, but it is me. My body is already stained with blood, but I don't regret it. She bowed slightly and took out a golden wooden tablet from her bag. It was Qin Jin's memorial tablet. Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Qin Yin's expression was calm as she placed Qin Jin's memorial tablet on the table. She slowly knelt down and looked at Lin Muyu with tears streaming down her face. Do you think I wanted to do all of this? But big brother Yu, do you remember how Lanyan City was breached? Do you remember how Muyu City and Seven Seas City refused to send troops and caused the deaths of Chu Huayin, Qin Lei and so many others? The feudal vassals all had ulterior motives, but when the empire was in danger, they still had the strength to protect themselves. Shouldn't these traitors and traitors be punished? As she spoke, Qin Yin stood up and raised her hand. A golden ice crystal pierced through the air and pierced through the tent. The drizzle fell from the sky. Qin Yin raised her long neck and allowed the drizzle to fall on her face. She closed her eyes as tears rolled down her cheeks. I didn't want to bear all of this, but Su Muyun and Tang Lon put me on the throne. They wanted to turn me into a puppet for power. Do I have a choice? I hope that this rain turns into thousands of swords and knives and turns those traitors into mincemeat. Qin Yin sobbed continuously and her face was full of desolation. All along she had shouldered too much, but no one had ever understood her. Everyone thought that the Empress was above everything, but they didn't know how much humiliation and indignation Qin Yin had suffered. In the future, everyone would scold her for being vicious and merciless, but no one would criticize the feudal vassals who ignored the survival of mankind and put their own safety before anything else. People were always like this. They were deceived by the illusion in front of them and thought that everyone should be as pure and holy as they thought they were. They never understood the pain and struggles of others. Lin Muyu silently walked forward and gently hugged her. She caressed her drenched back and said, In the future, let me do these kinds of bad things. Qin Yin's shoulders trembled as she wailed in Lin Muyu's arms. It was as if she wanted to turn all of her grievances and unhappiness into tears. After a while, Qin Yin raised her head and looked at Lin Muyu with her red eyes. She wiped away her tears and asked, Will you still love me? Yes, I will always. Including, I will do another bad thing, a bad thing that will let Xiaoxi down. Lin Muyu was puzzled. What bad thing? Xiangyu is about to take over Bailing City. He secretly ordered Tang Lon to lead 10,000 troops to reinforce and defend Bailing City. During this era, the Empire will govern Bailing City. This, Lin Muyu pondered for a while and said, Tang Lon has ulterior motives. He ordered Tang Lu to lead 300,000 troops and wait for an opportunity. Indeed, he deserves to die. Moreover, if Tang Lon doesn't die, the Seven Seas province will never be able to be pacified. As the Empire's ruler, you should have this kind of courage. If you want to wear a crown, you must bear the weight. If you want to hold a rose, you must bear the pain. Just do it. This time I support you. Yes. Chapter 600. Translation. On a moonlit night, a warm breeze brushed past the Daojiang River. Spring had come especially fast in Songnan province. In the middle of the river, huge imperial warships were cleaving through the waves. On the warships there were huge black cannons. Each warship had 3 cannons. There were nearly 50 warships moving slowly in the river. However, the people on the ships were not in the mood to sleep. Their eyes were wide open as if they wanted to see through the water of Daojiang. Vice Commander Wei, what are you looking at? Commander Bailey Tsong smiled and looked at the water outside of the ship. Could it be that there are some water monsters in the water? Bailey Tsong had not experienced the Battle of Wildfire Plains, so he naturally did not know about these things. Wei Chou only smiled and said, No, but it is better to be careful. The demon race has a kind of underwater army that is very scary. We must be careful. Are you talking about the winged ones? Yes. Bailey Tsong could not help but smile. I am the commander of the navy, but to be honest, I have never seen this kind of underwater army of the demon race. It is a bit strange. Don't be strange. You do not want to see the winged ones. Wei Chou placed his hand on the hilt of the sword on his waist and said, "Come, gather our guards and protect the warships at all times." Yes. Behind him, a general wearing the insignia of a golden star sparring master cupped his fist and said, "Vice Commander, please do not worry. Everything has been prepared. Nothing will happen." "Ah, that is good." Wei Chou looked up at the starlight and said, "The last time we transported the magic crystal cannons by water, it did not escape the eyes of the winged demons. If nothing goes wrong, this time we will transport the magic crystal cannons by water. With Qianfeng's shrewdness, he will definitely notice it and take action. Everyone stay alert and do not sleep at night." "Yes, Vice Commander." Bailey Tsong looked at the two sides of the river in the distance and said, "This war has been going on for 2 years. I do not know when it will end. If it continues, I am afraid that the Empire's national strength will be completely exhausted." "It will not be long." "I hope so." Suddenly, a long soft tongue shot out from the water and went straight for Bailey Tsong. It stuck to Bailey Tsong's chest armor and pulled him to the surface of the water. "Careful." Wei Chou hurriedly grabbed Bailey Tsong's arm and pulled him back to the side of the ship. He raised his sword and cut off Bailey Tsong's soft tongue. He shouted, "The horseshoe crabman has appeared. Prepare for battle." Everyone was shocked and drew their swords. The archers came to the edge of the deck and arrows rained down. The arrows whizzed into the water, seemingly having no effect. The Mengs did not attack from the front. Instead, clanking sounds of chiseling came from the bottom of the ship. The Mengs were using the same trick, trying to pierce through the warship. "Damn it!" Wei Chou brandished his sword and said, "Beast Taming Division, what are you waiting for? Release your treasures." "Yes." A group of generals dressed in the armor of the Holy Temple put their fingers to their mouths and whistled. Not far away, a whirlpool appeared at the bottom of the water. That was the sound of a giant swimming underwater. In the next moment, Mengs were swept out of the water by a huge tail and were bitten in half by a frost-armored horned dragon. Kiki. Violent screams could be heard from under the water. The 50 frost-armored horned dragons and the mastiffs were engaged in a fierce battle. The mastiffs relied on their ability to breathe underwater, but the frost-armored horned dragons could do the same. Furthermore, the frost-armored horned dragons were covered in extremely hard scales that the mastiffs were unable to pierce through. In the blink of an eye, the surface of the water was dyed dark red. No one knew how the battle was progressing underwater. But judging from the floating Mengs corpses, the frost-armored horned dragons had the absolute upper hand. Even though the Mengs had the advantage in numbers, they were still no match for the frost-armored horned dragons. About 2 hours later, the Mengs corpses on the surface of the water were floating together, reflecting a strange radiance under the moonlight. One by one, the frost-armored horned dragons emerged from the water, their heads bowing to their masters on the warship. The masters immediately threw the fishes into the water, feeding the frost-armored horned dragons as if they were dogs. Bailey Tsong was still in a state of shock. He stared dumbfoundedly and said, "Commander Yu's taming of these frost-armored horned dragons is indeed effective. Oh my god, the demon race's underwater legion has actually found their way here." Wei Chou muttered, 50 frost-armored horned dragons eat 100 cows and 500 sheep every day. After raising them for so many days, I can finally see the results. Commander Yu is indeed far-sighted. If we did not have the frost-armored horned dragons to protect us, we would definitely be at a disadvantage this time. Perhaps all the magic crystal cannons would have sunk into the river, making it even harder to predict the outcome of the battle. "That's right." Bailey Tsong squinted his eyes and smiled. "If you could distribute a few of these frost-armored horned dragons to our navy. Don't think too much. Commander Bailey, you don't know that these frost-armored horned dragons are my lord's flesh and blood. You want to take away his flesh, humph? Do you think a stingy person like him will agree?" "Ah, that's true. Deputy Commander Wei is right." A bright moon hung high in the sky. 100 Ridge City was as quiet as usual. Once midnight arrived, the city would be under martial law. No one was allowed to enter or leave the city. However, tonight was different. On the city wall, Lei Manfong was patrolling above the city as usual. The two golden stars on his shoulders sparkled under the moonlight. Clap, clap. The sound of birds flapping their wings came from the sky. A messenger bird landed on Lei Monfeng's shoulder. He hurriedly took down the letter, unfolded it and looked into the distance. 100 Ridge City was surrounded by mountains, but at this moment he could vaguely see the light of fire in the distant mountains. He could even faintly hear the sound of galloping war horses. "My lord, have they arrived?" A Chiliarch asked respectfully. "Yes." Lei Manfong said indifferently, "Who is on duty at the North Gate tonight?" "It's Zhou Xian, Chiliarch of the Heaven's Vault Army." "Good. Bring the brothers and follow me. Let's treat Zhou Xian to a drink." "Yes." A group of people walked down from the city wall and arrived at the camp guarding the city. Lei Manfong carried a jar of wine under his arm and walked into the tent casually. He laughed and said, "Brother Zhou Xian, how have you been?" Zhou Xian was a middle-aged general about 40 years old. He sniffed and said with a smile, "Apricot wine from a small town in the southwest of 100 Ridge City. I wonder if I guessed correctly?" Brother, you really are a god of wine. Come, I happen to have nothing to do today. I'll come and drink with you." "But..." Zhou Xian frowned and said, "I'm on duty at the city gate today. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for me to drink." "It's fine. Commander Yi is trapped in Songlin Valley. We don't even know if he's dead or alive. Who can care about you? There's wine tonight, so let's get drunk. What's the point of caring so much?" "That's true. Come, let's not stop until we're drunk." The two of them placed good wine and meat on the table and drank without restraint. After they were half drunk, a hint of killing intent flashed through Lei Monfeng's eyes. He said with a smile, "General Ji has led 300,000 troops and is surrounded by the demon race. They're most likely going to be swallowed whole. I think the situation in Iha country is about to change. Brother Zhou Xian, don't you think about the future?" Zhou Xian was startled. "General Lei, what do you mean by that? Are you thinking of defecting to the enemy?" "That's exactly what I'm thinking." Lei Manfong smiled slightly. "The reason I'm treating you to a drink today is to ask for something from you. I want to present it to Commander Xiang Yu of the Empire." What do you want?" Zhou Xian was half sober now. He flipped over and grabbed his sword. "I want your head." Lei Manfeng's eyes flashed fiercely. He opened his palm and a flame shot out. Instantly Zhou Xian groaned and fell to the ground. The difference in strength was too great. There was no suspense at all. Lei Manfong walked forward and cut off his head. Just like when he came, he carried something under his armpit. However, this time it wasn't wine but a head. "Get rid of those who are in the way. Immediately open the city gates and welcome the Empire's army into the city." With Lei Manfeng's order, Zhou Xiao's guards were almost all killed in an instant. The city gates buzzed open. Not long after, the iron hooves from afar arrived. The purple Yinhua emblem shone under the light of the torches. After 5 years, the purple Yinhua finally appeared in 100 Ridge City again. The iron horses in front all had human heads hanging on their necks. Needless to say, the Iha country's guards along the way had all been killed. In the distance, Xiang Yu's army was densely packed. "Commander Xiang." Lei Manfong held up Zhou Xiao's head and smiled. "This is the head of Zhou Xian who is on duty in the North City tonight. Please accept it, Commander Xiang." Xiang Yu rode forward, his eyes filled with pride and a smile. "General Lei, I wonder what kind of reward His Highness promised you for you to take such a risk." "Marquis Lingnan." "Oh, I see." Xiang Yu cupped his fists and smiled. "Then congratulations, Marquis Lingnan. Go. We'll enter the city and immediately take control of everything in 100 Ridge City." "Yes. Enter the city." Xiang Yu raised his arm and shouted. "Once you enter the city, you are not allowed to plunder or kill any civilians. Attack the 4 city gates immediately and kill all the Iha country's guards." "Yes, Commander." Amidst the clattering of hooves, a row of imperial cavalrymen galloped into the city. The magnificent 100 Ridge City, the capital of the Iha kingdom, had been left with less than 10,000 soldiers. Xiang Yu had seized the city so easily. At the same time, Songlin Valley was in flames. Only a few of the Iha country's 200,000 elite soldiers were left, but the remaining thousands were still fighting to the death. Among the crowd, a blazing flame rushed back and forth, crushing the armor demons and winged people. It was the fire dance deity King Ouyang Yan. Suddenly, a majestic voice came from the sky. When Ouyang Yan looked up, she saw a person descending from the sky. His giant palm was filled with divine power. Bam! When the two palms collided, air currents flew everywhere. Ouyang Yan suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and flew far away like a falling leaf. She looked up at the person in the sky. It was a black-robed elder. She gritted her teeth and said, "You are..." Not far away, Qianfeng and the other high-level demons knelt down and said the answer Ouyang Yan wanted. "Greetings, deity king." The demon king laughed and opened his palm. "Ouyang Yan, you useless deity, how dare you resist my army? I think you must be tired of living." Ouyang Yan gritted her teeth, but the demon king's power was too strong. He was so strong that she could not resist. She quickly retreated. A purple light flashed behind her and she disappeared. It was the Void Steps teleportation technique. Scoundrel. The demon king looked at the place where Ouyang Yan disappeared. He waved his arm and said, "Marshal Qianfeng, you have wasted too much time. Clean up the battlefield immediately and attack the Empire's position. I want to see the heads of Qin Yin and Lin Muyu within 3 days." "Yes, your majesty." In the crowd, Yi Xuanhuan trembled. He raised his sword and rushed over angrily. He shouted, "I'll fight you to the death." The demon king looked at him fiercely and activated the power of the celestial territory. Yi Xuanhuan was immediately immobilized. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose. In the blink of an eye, his face was ashen. He knelt on the ground, no longer breathing. The dignified commander of the Iha country's Heaven Vault army had died in battle without a sound. Who else wants to resist the celestial race? The demon king looked coldly at the last troops of the Iha country. Clang! The sword in Ji Yao's hand fell on the mountain rock. He slowly knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, "Subordinate Ji Yao is willing to surrender to the celestial race. I hope the deity king can take me in." Despicable person. The demon king smiled faintly. "Marshal Qianfeng, this Ji Yao, should we keep him or not?" Qianfeng couldn't help but laugh. "Your Majesty, the celestial race lacks a commander for the advance army. This Ji Yao has some prestige in the Iha country. Let him stay." "Yes, you deal with him." "Yes." Chapter 601. On the 18th day of the 2nd month, Qin Yin's letter arrived at Mozong Pass. Early in the morning, in the quiet little courtyard of the pass, the morning mist turned into rain and fell down. The tender leaves of the pomegranate tree splashed onto the cobblestones. Tang Lan held the book with the Empress's imperial seal in her hand and stood under the pomegranate tree with an ashen face. Looking at the newly sprouted petals, she felt an unspeakable discomfort in her heart. Duke Lan. The Tang family's general Tang Shi was still used to calling this name and said, "What order did Her Highness give that makes it so difficult for you to decide? Look at it yourself." Tang Lan threw the letter on the ground. Tang Shi picked it up and carefully read it word by word, muttering, "Commander Xianxia has already conquered Bailing City? Oh my god, this is an unparalleled achievement. Duke Lan, Her Highness has ordered you to govern Bailing City. This is a great thing. Why are you so unhappy? Did you see how many troops Her Highness ordered me to lead? 10,000. But..." Tang Shi hesitated and said, "But Bailing City's military strength is empty and there are 50,000 elite troops led by Xianxia. Even if Duke Lan only leads 10,000 elite troops, it should still be very safe." Tang Lan couldn't help but smile dejectedly. "Tang Shi, you have been in the army all your life and naturally don't know so many schemes. So I forget it, ha. Heaven doesn't want my Tang family, I can only resign myself to fate." "Tang Shi, where's Tang Lu's army?" 300,000 elite troops are still in 7 sea gates. As long as Duke Lan gives the order, young Master Tang Lu will lead the army out of the pass and listen to Her Highness's orders. "Where is Xiaoxi?" "Princess, she is leading 200,000 demon troops to guard the western suburbs of Lanyan City. I don't know why, but she seems to be guarding against the army of 7 sea gates. I really don't understand Princess Xi's intention." Sigh, Xiaoxi. Tang Lan looked up at the pomegranate tree and muttered, "Success is due to Xiaoxi and failure is due to Xiaoxi. Tang Shi, prepare a pen and ink for me. I want to write a letter. Personally lead the light cavalry to 7 sea gates and hand it to Tang Lu." "Yes." Before long, Tang Lan handed Tang Xi a letter stamped with the Seven Seas sovereign seal. She looked at his doubtful expression and said, "If you want to read it, open it." Tang Xi took out the letter and glanced at it. Instantly his body trembled. "Master Lan, have you really decided to hand over the military power of the 300,000 elite soldiers of the Seven Seas city to Princess Xi?" "Yes." Tang Lan had a dejected look on her face as she said indifferently, "Xiao Xi is brave and decisive, but Tang Lu is jealous and narrow-minded. I've thought about it for a very, very long time. Perhaps the Seven Seas city's army can only exist a little longer in Xiao Xi's hands. If it's in Tang Lu's hands, it will sooner or later be buried by this kid. Go." "But," Tang Xi said, "will young Lord Tang Lu really obediently hand over his military power based on this letter alone? I knew there would be such a mess." Tang Lan murmured, "How about this? When you arrive at the Seven Seas city, use my Tang Sec's iron order to request Tang Lu to gather all the vassals for a discussion. Then take out this letter in front of everyone. I believe that kid Tang Lu won't disobey my order in public." "Yes, I understand." Tang Xi carefully stuffed the letter into the space bag at his waist. He looked at Tang Lan again and said, "Master Lan, I'll leave an additional 40,000 soldiers outside the Cuckoo City. You can bring an additional 40,000 soldiers to the 100 Ridge City." "Yes, I understand. Go." "Yes." After Tang Xi left, Tang Lan continued to look up at the pomegranate tree swaying in the wind. Suddenly she raised her head and laughed heartily. Her laughter sounded extremely old. As she laughed, she suddenly lowered her head and vomited a mouthful of blood. Her face became much paler as she said, "Men." "Yes, Your Highness. Prepare the horses. Mobilize 10,000 old soldiers and follow me to the Turtle Valley Trail to reinforce the 100 Ridge City." "Your Highness," the Major General said, a look of surprise on his face. 10,000 is enough?" Before Commander Tang Xi left, he left behind a total of 80,000 soldiers. "Do you want to bring all of them?" "No, only 10,000 soldiers. All of them must be old soldiers." "Yes." Not long after, Tang Lan led the 10,000 soldiers and left the Black Pine Pass in a grandiose manner. Su Yu and Feng Jixing escorted them to the outskirts of the city. The spring wind blew gently, causing the plains on both sides of the road to turn green. Everyone was very quiet. Feng Jixing and Su Yu rode side by side and followed behind Tang Lan. Su Yu wanted to persuade Tang Lan to stay again and again, but she resisted every time. She also knew that it was the Empress's imperial edict and she couldn't defy it. "Right, I'll send them here." Tang Lan turned his horse around and cupped his fists. "General Feng, Commander Su, I'll send them here. I'll quickly march to the 100 Ridge City. I hope that the two of you will take care of yourselves." "Yes." Feng Jixing looked at Tang Lan with a deep gaze and said, "Seven Seas King, do you have any words that you want me to pass to Her Highness? The Tang family has been guarding the Seven Seas province for generations. I hope that Your Highness will treat the Tang family well and hope that Your Highness will take care of herself." "All right, I'll definitely pass this message to her." "Go." Tang Lan spurred his horse and left. A row of Tang family's old soldiers followed behind. Coughing sounds could be heard from time to time. Most of these old soldiers were already sick. Actually, many smart people had already guessed the outcome of Tang Lan's departure. Once Tang Lan left, he wouldn't return. "General Feng, has Her Highness already dug a grave for the Seven Seas King?" Su Yu's hair swayed gently in the cool breeze as she looked into the distance and muttered. Feng Jixing's lips curled up. "Her Highness has no choice but to do so." Tang Lan ordered Tang Lu to lead 300,000 strong soldiers to guard the Seven Seas Pass, eyeing Lanyan City covetously. "Tang Lan's disloyalty is clear, and Her Highness has determined this. That's why she ordered Tang Lan to lead the army to the 100 Ridge City." "Humph. The 100 Ridge City is the capital of Iha country. Long Qianlin and Ding Shi will definitely return to help. As long as Long Qianlin and Ding Shi surround the 100 Ridge City, Tang Lan will definitely die." Su Yu's delicate body trembled when she heard this. Her eyes were somewhat blurred as she said, "Xiao Yin has actually thought so far ahead. Since that's the case, Tang Lan will send himself to his death. What about us? What should we do?" Feng Jixing said, "Commander Su Yu, I've already received a secret order from Her Highness. You will lead 100,000 soldiers to guard Ink Pine Pass. As for me, I'm going back to Lanyan City." To Lanyan City? Yes. What are you going to do? Can I ask? Haha. Feng Jixing laughed heartily and said, with Tang Lan's death, the Tang family's 300,000 soldiers are like a group of dragons without a leader. Someone must take over the army, so Her Highness's secret order is for me to carry out. Su Yu couldn't help but smile. Then I'll have to congratulate General Feng. There's nothing to congratulate. I'll serve the Empire and sell my life for Her Highness. Feng Jixing looked at the sky and said, I'll set off in 2 days. In these 2 days, we'll observe the movements of Long Qianlin and Ding Shi's army. Once they receive the news, they'll quickly prepare rations and armaments to return to the 100 Ridge City. Her Highness has ordered us to delay them for a day or two. It's best if we can cut off and burn their rations and armaments. Yes. In Fiery Moon City, the central tent was quiet in the afternoon. A battle report was spread on the table of the commander. Long Qianlin sat there with a pale face while Ding Shi was smoking a pipe. Clouds and mist lingered in the tent. A group of generals above the rank of captaincy sat there with solemn expressions, not saying a word. Not long after, a messenger opened the tent door and walked in. He said, reporting to the second marshal, we've received commander's order. He's now in the fortress of Jiang'a, but there are less than 30,000 soldiers defending it. Commander has ordered the 2 marshals to immediately send the army to Jiang'a to reinforce commander and seize 100 Ridge City. Got it. You're dismissed. Yes. Long Qianlin waved the smoke away and saw Ding Shi's face clearly. He said, Marshal Ding, why do you still have the leisure to smoke this kind of thing here? Bailing City has been captured by Xiang Yu and half of Iha country's territory is in danger in the blink of an eye. Don't you have a plan? Ding Shi smiled faintly. Jiyao leading 300,000 elite soldiers out of Jiang'a is doomed to ruin. What can we do at this moment? Long Qianlin said, Commander has ordered the 2 of us to lead 400,000 soldiers to reinforce Jiang'a. What do you think? Absolutely not. Ding Shi said, when a general is in the field, the emperor's orders cannot be obeyed. We can't go back to Jiang'a together. Otherwise we'll lose more than just half of Lingnan province. Our enemy is Feng Jixing. His strategy is not inferior to Qian Feng and Lin Muyu. Once we send the army to reinforce Lingnan province, Feng Jixing will definitely attack Sunset City. Sunset Marquis is old. How can he be a match for Feng Jixing? So, Marshal Long, you lead 200,000 soldiers to reinforce commander. I'll lead 200,000 soldiers to stay in Swift White Province and suppress Feng Jixing. What do you think? Yes, that's what I was thinking. Long Qianlin nodded. If we set off tonight, we might be able to reinforce commander before Xiang Yu can mobilize his forces to counterattack Jiang'a. Marshal Ding, you must also remember that Feng Jixing is very powerful. Don't act rashly. Swift White Province is too important to Iha country. We can't lose it. Got it. I'll go and set up the defense. Alright. Ding Shi extinguished his opium pipe, picked up the wine gourd on the table and tied it to his waist. He said to the group of Swift White Province generals, follow me. Return to defend the steel wall. Leave all the Heavenly Book weapon embryos for Marshal Long. They might be useful for attacking 100 Ridge City and resisting the Devil Race. Yes, Marshal. Thank you, Marshal Ding. Long Qianlin cupped his fists and looked at Ding Shi gratefully. The 2 smiled at each other and turned to go their separate ways. Qin Yi had started his uprising in Lingnan with the slogan that all living beings were equal and people should be benevolent. 5 years had passed in the blink of an eye, and the Iha country had also existed for 5 years, but now it was on the edge of a cliff. The only people who could save the Iha country were these 2 generals. But Ding Shi was too benevolent, and Long Qianlin was suspected because he was originally a general of the empire. The 2 of them were like struggling in a quagmire. The more they wanted to leave, the deeper they sank, unable to extricate themselves. Chapter 602. On the morning of the 19th, in the main battlefield of the Songlin Valley, under Lin Muyu's defense, nearly 50,000 elites of the Longdan army camp set up 3-8 formation diagrams to fight against the demons. The war drums resounded, the war was about to begin. In the direction of the Songlin Valley, Qianfeng's army appeared all over the mountains. The armor demons roared ferociously, the winged men covered the sky, and the giant beasts covered with scabs roared and beat the war drums on their chests, making ear-piercing sounds. However, at a place a mile away from the Longdan army camp, Qianfeng ordered to stop advancing and began to reorganize the formation. Under the command of the high-level demons, the armor demons carried their heavy shields and sharp blades and began to form the formation clumsily. The formation changed according to the rhythm of the war drums. Am I seeing this right? Lin Muyu rode on treading snow and looked at the formation of the armor demons from afar. Where did Qianfeng learn the humans' Qingkun formation? Isn't this Brother Feng's specialty? Zheng Yifan stroked his beard and laughed. Qianfeng is indeed a smart general. He actually mastered the Qingkun formation so quickly. However, he overestimated the intelligence of the armor demons. Do these idiots really know how to use the Qingkun formation? They won't have the chance to use it. Lin Muyu sneered. Su Muyun said, Commander Yu, how do you plan to fight this battle? Deterrence is the priority, killing is the secondary. It's best not to fight at close range, otherwise we will suffer heavy losses. Lin Muyu pointed to the north and said, Shin Ho, please lead the Xinwei battalion and hold the ground for me. Don't let the demons attack the Longdan army camp. Leave the rest to me. Yes, I understand. Zheng Yifan smiled and nodded his head. He didn't know when it started, but Zheng Yifan's hostility towards Lin Muyu had completely disappeared. On the contrary, Zheng Yifan had been fighting for his entire life, and he realized that this kid was showing more and more of his strengths. Moreover, his combat techniques were worth learning. This 8-formation diagram was something that he had to learn sooner or later. Qin Yin was sitting in the middle of the army, riding a fast horse. Although she was eager to kill more armor demons, she was stopped by Lin Muyu. As a dignified empress, this was not something she should do. Dong dong dong. The battle drums became more and more intense as Qianfeng arranged 11 heaven and earth battle formations. Nearly 100,000 armored demons slowly moved forward and started to crush the battle formation of the Longdan army camp. Actually, it was already powerful enough for the armored demons to rush forward randomly. Now that they used heaven and earth battle formations, it could be seen that Qianfeng thought highly of Lin Muyu. He thought highly of Lin Muyu. Prepare the heavy weapons. Lin Muyu said lightly. Situ Shui, who was on the side, flew up the platform and waved the flag. Immediately, the drums of the brave dragon battalion began to beat loudly. The front row of spear cavalry dispersed, revealing the ballistas and arrow boxes that were hidden behind them. For this battle, Lin Muyu had brought almost all of the heavy equipment that she had with her. In the distance, the armor demons roared angrily as they got closer and closer. Luo Exen stood at the side and held her spear tightly. Her face was full of hope and excitement as she said, Commander Yu, is it time to attack? No, wait a little longer. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes. She was calculating the distance. The two sides were already 300 meters away from each other, but this distance was not enough. She had to wait for the armor demons to get closer before killing them. Looking up at Situ Shui, Lin Muyu ordered, Prepare the magic crystal cannons. Calibrate the angle and shoot from 300 meters away. Yes. Situ Shui raised the command flag and waved it 3 times. Then she repeated this action repeatedly. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the middle of the Longdan army camp. The crowd dispersed, revealing a total of 50 magic crystal cannons. The muzzles of the cannons were slowly adjusted and raised, aiming at the front, forming an upward angle of about 25 degrees. Su Muyun frowned and said, Commander Yu, if we don't attack now, we won't be able to resist once the armor demons charge at us. Don't worry, Cloud King. Lin Muyu looked at the distance between the two sides confidently. When the armor demons were less than 100 meters away from the Longdan army camp, Lin Muyu suddenly pulled out her long sword and shouted, Magic crystal cannons, take turns to fire. Situ Shui waved the command flag and made an attacking posture. In the next moment, the powerful recoil of the magic crystal cannons caused a series of tremors on the ground, as if an earthquake had happened. There were a total of 51 magic crystal cannons hidden in the Longdan army camp. 3 magic crystal cannons formed a group. Every time they fired, 1 magic crystal cannons would fire, while the other 2 magic crystal cannons would cool down and fire 17 cannons at once. Boom boom boom. 300 meters away, the ground shook violently. Purple mushroom clouds soared into the sky. Thunder, lightning, and flames raged along the ground. Basically, the armor demons that were hit directly turned into ashes. The most terrifying part of the explosion of the magic crystal cannons was the baptism of thunder and lightning in a wide range. The armor demons within 50 meters were directly killed, the armor demons within 100 meters were severely injured, and the airflow within 200 meters was affected. In a split second the battlefield turned dark. Numerous armor demons were killed or wounded. What was more, the blast wave of the magic crystal cannons burst out from the center of the battle formation of the armored demons, causing the armored demons in the front to lose their balance and fall to the ground one after another, dropping their shields and weapons. Right at this moment, the dense arrow boxes and ballistas of the Long Dan battalion started to fire. Puff puff puff. The positional warfare completely turned into a massacre. The armored demons that were caught off guard had no time to raise their shields to defend. In the blink of an eye they were shot to death by the arrow boxes and ballistas. Even the soldiers in the Long Dan army camp who were close to the armored demons raised their longbows and shot the white drill arrows at close range. In less than 2 minutes the second round of bombardment began. Purple mushroom clouds rose up in the sky. For the demons this was just like a nightmare. My God! In the distance, in the middle of the demon army, Qianfeng was riding on a warhorse. Suddenly he wailed. It turned out that the fire-breathing weapon that the winged person mentioned was this thing. It was so terrifying. Qianfeng couldn't help but close his eyes. He felt an indescribable chill in his heart and ordered, "The formation is useless. Beat the drum and order the armor demons to rush forward, break up the humans' position and destroy that weapon. Send out the flying snake troop to break forward along the left and right flank of the position. We must take down the position and kill the remaining soldiers of the Empire." Yes. The sound of the war drums became more intense. The armor demons were also in a killing frenzy. They stepped on the corpses of their companions and rushed forward. Their roars were endless. There were also sharp cries coming from the sky. On the horizon, the huge figures of flying snakes appeared in the sky above the forest in the distance. "What is that?" Lin Muyu could not help but frown. "Flying snake." Qin Yin said softly, "This kind of flying snake was mentioned in the intelligence. It is said that the destruction of Ji Yao's troops was caused by these flying snakes. One flying snake is enough to resist 10,000 soldiers." "Damn it." Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, "Fengxi, send a letter to Wei Chou and order him to lead the warships to the north bank and attack the flying snakes. We must stop them." "Yes, madam." A few minutes later a bird flew towards the direction of Daojiang River. "Magic crystal cannons, get ready to aim at the flying snakes." Lin Muyu said with a stern look, "Send out the barbarian shield battalion to stop the attack of the armor demons." Yes. Since the devil race had used their secret weapon the humans could not hold back anymore. Lin Muyu spurred the warhorse and slowly moved forward. He knew that the front line needed his holy king's power. Qin Yin also carried the heaven-suppressing sword and walked side by side. Lin Muyu did not stop them. He wanted to see how strong Qin Yin's cultivation was. Jejia. In the air in front of them, a flying snake blotted out the sky and covered the earth as it came crashing down. Facing the attacks of the boxes of arrows and the ballistae, the scales on its head all bounced off with a dang-dang sound. The scales were really too hard, even the white drill arrows couldn't penetrate it. Roar. The force field in her body surged and a blue light shot up to the sky. The flying snake launched a power absorption attack. For a moment the front line was in chaos. Many soldiers' weapons and shields were absorbed one after another. Screams could be heard. In a blink of an eye, dozens of soldiers flew into the mouth of the flying snake. "What are you waiting for? Fire the cannons." Lin Muyu looked back. Situ Shui clenched her teeth and waved the flag at the risk of exploding. Bang bang. The earth trembled as the 2 magic crystal cannons landed on the flying snake's head at the same time and exploded instantly. Boom. Boom. Almost nothing could be seen in front of them. A purple mushroom cloud soared into the sky and a shock wave blossomed in the air, forcing the armor demons and the soldiers of the Empire to retreat one after another. At the same time miserable screams could be heard. The flying snake was still alive. The magic crystal cannons could not be fired in a short period of time, but the flying snake had to die. Jie. 2 huge bloody holes appeared in the head of the flying snake, and its brain was about to burst out. However, it was still not dead. It roared angrily and continued to activate the force field, killing the soldiers of the Long Dan army camp. Bastard! Lin Muyu jumped on the back of the horse and rushed over with her sword. Her two martial souls broke out of her body and merged into the seven luminaries' holy gourd. At the same time she shouted, "Xiao Yin, attack from above." Okay. Qin Yin's graceful figure jumped onto Lin Muyu's arm. Lin Muyu shouted and the king's combat flames surged. She pushed her arm up and sent Qin Yin dozens of meters into the sky. Then she held her sword and slashed at the lower jaw of the flying snake with the seven luminaries' holy gourd. Crack. With a soft sound, the stellar sword split open the flying snake's lower jaw, leaving a long gash. However, Lin Muyu's body was forcefully pulled by the flying snake's force field into its mouth. Lin Muyu did not have the confidence that the dragon blood shield could withstand the teeth's attack. It's over. He suddenly felt a chill in his heart. At this moment there was a sudden pop in the air and a golden air wave came out. It was Qin Yin's action of summoning the god-binding chains. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. How did Qin Yin's cultivation improve so much? Qin Yin raised her left palm, and a dazzling golden celestial dragon crystal was formed in her palm. Half a second later she charged it at the head of the flying snake. Bang! The celestial dragon crystal penetrated the head of the flying snake, and the core of its force field was smashed into pieces. One hit kill. Chapter 603. Bang! 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 After 3 consecutive bombardments, the purple flames and smoke soared into the sky, illuminating the water surface of the Daojiang River subbasin. On the bank of the river, the warships of the Empire had steadied themselves. The magic crystal cannons on the warships aimed at the huge monster and started to fire. After each shot, the hull of the warships would shake violently, causing heavy ripples on the water surface. Roar! Roar! The scales on the side of a flying snake's body had been smashed into pieces. Blood was flowing everywhere, but it had also stimulated its bestial nature. It roared and rushed toward the river. Its long body wriggled in the air while a blue beam of light fell from the sky. It opened its bloody mouth and launched an absorption attack on the warships of Jiangshan from afar. Not good. Continue the bombardment. Wei Chou clenched his fist and said angrily, "We must stop it no matter what. Continue the bombardment." Sir. Dozens of warships maintained the continuous bombardment. Suddenly, the scales on the face of the flying snake peeled off, and the flesh was badly mutilated. However, the warships couldn't hold on any longer. A warship with rotten wood suddenly cracked and finally collapsed, unable to bear the powerful recoil of the magic crystal cannons. The body of the magic crystal cannons was too heavy. It instantly smashed into the cabin, and the whole warship quickly sank into the water. An adjutant was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but tremble and said, "Sir Wei Chou, we can't hold on anymore. The power of that flying snake is enough to break the warship. Give the order to turn the rudder and retreat." Moreover, the hull of the Navy warship was originally not designed for the magic crystal cannons. It can't bear such shaking at all. Give the order to retreat. Bullshit. Wei Chou suddenly pulled out his sword and pointed it at the adjutant. His eyes were full of disappointment and anger. Look at the battlefield in front of us. So many soldiers of the Empire are using their flesh and blood to fight against the armor demons. Once the Empire is destroyed, what's the point of keeping your navy alive? Continue the bombardment. Without my order, no one is allowed to take half a step back. Fifth. General Wei. In the distance, a Chiliarch on another warship cupped his hands and said, "There are 3 more flying snakes coming over. What should we do? We might not be able to attract too many at the same time. No long-range bombardment. Lure all the flying snakes on the shore over." Wei Chou wiped the blood that had flowed out of his nose because of the blast of the magic crystal cannons. He gritted his teeth and said, "Try to reduce the pressure on the troops on the ground. They are suffering more than we are." Yes. Artillery fire filled the air and battle cries rose to the sky. The area within 10 miles of the plain was in a chaotic battle. Even the remnants of the God Might Battalion and the Iron Blade Army joined the battle. At the moment of the survival of the Empire, no one seemed to be afraid anymore. Facing the demon army, everyone roared loudly, stepped on the corpses of their companions and bravely killed. Kill. In the midst of the chaos, Qianfeng led a group of advanced demons to kill the humans. His arms were filled with Guru Devil Force. Suddenly, the sword turned into a blood-red energy field that was tens of meters long. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp in the energy field were all stunned and could not move. The next moment, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. All of them were killed by Qianfeng's sword qi. Seeing Qianfeng charging in person, it seemed that the armor demons were also encouraged. They woke up from their stupor after being hit by the magic crystal cannons. Holding their battle axes, spears and warhammers, they attacked the humans' position crazily again. Boom! Suddenly, a loud sound came from the humans' position. A huge wave rose into the sky and a series of explosions took place. All the soldiers within 100 meters were blown into pieces. The magic crystal cannons exploded, which directly triggered the explosion of the other 2 magic crystal cannons nearby. The stored shells were also detonated, creating a vacuum zone in the Longdan army camp like purgatory. The deep pit was full of corpses and a strong burnt smell filled the air. Lord. Situ Shue's face was pale. She said, "The magic crystal cannons have been firing for too long, so they exploded. According to Lord Qin Xiling, they have to cool down for an hour before firing again, or they will explode again." Seeing thousands of soldiers of the Longdan army camp disappeared in an instant, Lin Muyu was so distressed that she almost couldn't say a word. She held the star's sword tightly and said, "Stop firing. Cavalry with spears and barbarian infantry, follow me to kill them. We have suffered a heavy loss, but the demons have also suffered a heavy loss. Brothers, pluck up your courage and kill them until they are scared." The people near and far drew their weapons one after another. Situ Sin bit the white soldier's shirt on his sleeve, tore off a piece of cloth, and wrapped the bloody hilt to prevent it from slipping. Then he suddenly raised the long sword and shouted, "My brothers, you are all heroes of the Empire today. Go, it's time to fight the demons." The cavalries of the Longdan army camp launched an attack, while Lin Muyu and Qin Yin galloped side by side at the forefront of the battle formation, facing the formation of Qianfeng. Everyone knew that this war could only end in a bloody battle. If the Empire retreated at this moment, humans would soon be extinct on this continent. Roar, roar, roar. In front of them, a dense group of armor demons roared and rushed over like a tide. Lin Muyu's heart sank and she stretched her arms slightly. Suddenly, rays of golden light lingered and trembled around her arms, and a powerful force shook the surrounding earth. The god-binding chains and the 7 luminaries' holy gourds slowly gathered together, forming a huge sword in front of her. She pointed the star's sword lightly, and the 7 luminaries' holy sword was added to the long sword. With Lin Muyu and Takshu as the core, it suddenly stabbed forward. The energy of the nearly 20-meter-long 7 luminaries' holy sword easily tore the group of armor demons into pieces. Boom! The group of steel blade army in front of them was torn into pieces. It was Qianfeng's attack. His master devil power turned into a huge blade, and no one knew how many people had died under this huge blade. Roar! The sound of a ferocious beast came from the sky. Another flying snake was coming. Lin Muyu couldn't help but secretly complain. At this moment, Qin Yin suddenly raised her snow-white arm and blasted it at the empty space in front of her. Bang, bang, bang. Golden crystals broke out of the ground and rushed into the sky in a ladder shape. Qin Yin jumped off the warhorse, held the long sword and flew into the sky on the dragon crystal. She said, "I will go and deal with the flying snake. Brother, you stop Qianfeng." Lin Muyu roared and rushed toward Qianfeng with the 7 luminaries' holy sword. Qianfeng also saw Lin Muyu and his eyes turned red when he saw his enemy. He waved the master devil power in his hand and pointed it at Lin Muyu. He spurred his warhorse and rushed over. Bang! When the 7 luminaries' holy sword collided with Qianfeng's master devil power, the world suddenly lost its color. The dull sound was accompanied by the shock wave, which made people's hearts feel like it was hit. The 7 luminaries' holy sword and the master devil power were shattered instantly. Lin Muyu jumped off the warhorse and rushed toward Qianfeng with her sword in hand. When the 2 swords collided, neither of them reduced their strength. They used their strongest strength to shake each other. The cyclone produced by the king's fighting flame and the master devil power kept flying up, and the gravel, corpses and debris around them were all crushed. The people who were fighting had to avoid the battlefield of the 2 peerless masters. Lin Muyu and Qianfeng were both masters of swords. In the blink of an eye, the battlefield was covered with smoke and dust. In the blink of an eye, dozens of swords were exchanged, and each sword created a wave of air, which shook the surrounding cavalry. Ah ah ah. The web between Qianfeng's thumb and index finger was already bleeding. His helmet fell to the ground and his long hair was flying in the air. Although he was in a sorry state, his fighting spirit was extremely high. He used all his strength in every sword strike and did not hold back at all. He wanted to defeat Lin Muyu so badly. Only by defeating this old enemy could he avenge himself. Lin Muyu was not much better. There were sword marks on her shoulder and armpit. If it were not for the divine seal engraved on her star's sword, she would not have been able to resist Qianfeng's attack. The cultivation of the first commander of the devil race was too high. The strength of the master devil power was far beyond the other elders of the devil race. Clang! Qianfeng suddenly pressed the star's sword with his sword, and the other edge of the star's sword pressed on Lin Muyu's shoulder, cutting into her skin. Die! The killing intent in Qianfeng's eyes was incomparably strong, and his whole person seemed to have fallen into the devil. Lin Muyu held the sword in her right hand, and suddenly stretched out her left hand and suddenly punched Qianfeng's cheek. Bang! The protective gang qi was blown away and Qianfeng could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and Lin Muyu felt a sharp pain in her shoulder. Qianfeng's sword qi had entered her body, and this kind of pain was really too unbearable. Raising her left arm forward, Lin Muyu's blood-stained face was full of pride, and she shouted in a low voice, "Acatosaurus, armor." A dragon's roar reverberated in the space, and the blood-red scales turned into armor inch by inch, blessing Lin Muyu's body. Suddenly her whole body seemed to be bathed in sweet dew. The Acatosaurus and her strength were getting more and more compatible, so much so that it could heal injuries and enhance her strength. It was also because of the Acatosaurus that Lin Muyu could compete with Qianfeng, who had at least the strength of an ultimate god. Ha! With a shout, Fushi's divine power and imperial combat flame were infused into the long sword, and Lin Muyu brazenly slashed down with her sword. Ha! Qianfeng was stunned. Feeling that the power of Lin Muyu's sword was far stronger than before, he hurriedly defended himself. However, the moment the two swords collided, Qianfeng immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Lin Muyu's Fushi divine power was too strong. Poof! With a spurt of power, Qianfeng's body flew out like a fallen leaf. Save the marshal! In the distance, Lian Shao roared loudly. Suddenly, a large group of armor demons and high-level demons rushed over. Lin Muyu's battle robe and face were covered in blood. Some of it was from humans and some of it was from demons. At that moment his handsome face was a little twisted and even a little ferocious. With a roar, he swept out his long sword, and the 7 luminaries' celestial sword pierced through dozens of armor demons and high-level demons. Hum! A dull sound came from the sky, and a huge creature fell into the battle formation of the demons. It was a flying snake with dragon crystals all over its body. Qin Yin had single-handedly killed a flying snake.